Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Invincible Sect Leader. The succubus disciples are scarred at the beginning. Chapter 21. Hu Juyu can be regarded as his adopted third disciple. He just looked at her beautiful legs and lost his mind. What a thing. Fortunately, no one else noticed, otherwise it would have been a disaster. Chen Yi thought to himself, completely unaware that his every move had been clearly seen by the three disciples. Chen Yi replied with a smile. This outfit suits you very well. By the way, starting from today, you will officially become my master's direct disciple. This is a technique prepared for you. You can use it to practice. As he spoke, he handed the skills he had prepared long ago to Hu Juyu. The technique that Hu Juyu practiced was called demonic sword art. This technique was different from that practiced by the other two disciples. Su Jiqian's skills are more demonic, with both evil aura and charm. Leng Luoli practices ice element skills, which can induce the energy of heaven and earth to kill people invisible. Hu Juyu's demonic heaven sword Ju is a technique for practicing giant swords. The giant sword is different from the ordinary long sword. The sword body is larger and wider. It is very laborious to swing, but relatively, the lethality is also extremely terrifying. It can break through the mountain gate and cut off the sky with one sword. Hu Juyu took over the technique and was slightly startled at first, then looked at the master in surprise. How did the master know that she had always wanted to practice this kind of skill? She has always dreamed of becoming her master's sharpest sword and using the giant sword in her hand to help her master overcome all obstacles. But it seems that she has never told her master. The master must be too attentive. It turns out that he has been paying attention to her silently and has even planned out what kind of exercises she likes. She loves her current owner so much. Chen Yi now has 1,000 system points left. After exchanging Hu Juyu for a giant sword for practice, he has none left. Seeing that the skills and weapons had been distributed, Chen Yi said to the three of them, "Now open the exercises and let me guide you in your practice one by one." The three disciples followed the instructions, and together they turned to the first page of the exercise. As the skill was opened, it immediately turned into a golden stream of light and entered the minds of the three people. The systematic exercises are tailor-made and also bound. A single exercise can only be practiced by one person. The three disciples were extremely surprised when they saw this. This technique can be directly imprinted in their minds. When they want to practice, they only need to search for the memory in their minds. It's simply not too convenient. In this world, each monk can only practice one skill, and the quality of the skill directly determines the strength of a monk. The three disciples have now adopted new techniques. Chen Yi plans to test their strength first while formulating a training direction. Thinking of this, Chen Yi said to the eldest disciple, "Kaianer, my master will spar with you first. You release the first form of the demonic soul technique, the devil's palm, and attack my master." When Su Jiqian heard the master's words, her eyes lit up and she stood up excitedly. Is it true that master wants to personally guide his disciples in their practice? That's great, thank you master. Her favorite thing in the past was practicing with her master, but after the master's temperament changed drastically, she no longer enjoyed it. Now that master has recovered, she can do happy things with master again. I can't help but get excited just thinking about it. After a while, the two came to the square in front of the main hall, and they stood opposite each other. Chen Yi stood with his hands behind his back, and a breeze happened to blow by. The skirt of his blue robe was fluttering in the wind, making him look particularly like an immortal. Su Jiqian, who was standing opposite, looked at the master with all her attention, adjusted her body to the best condition, and said respectfully, "Master, my disciple has taken action." Chen Yi hooked his hand and signaled her to attack at will. Devil palm. Su Jiqian let out a sweet cry, then stretched out her jade hand, gathered all her spiritual power on the palm, and suddenly shot it in the direction of the master. She knew that the master was a monk from the divine treasure realm, so when she took action, she didn't hold back at all, and she didn't have to worry about hurting the master. With the release of Su Jiqian's skills, in an instant, a soaring evil spirit emerged from her palm. The evil energy was like a mist, condensing into the shape of a palm. This evil palm wind seemed to swallow up all the objects around it. If Tianshuan Palace was not a gift from the system and had special defense measures, I am afraid that the surrounding buildings would have been sucked in and turned into debris. The palm wind howled and rushed towards Chen Yi. Chen Yi looked at the tyrannical pressure contained in the palm wind, and his expression could not help but be a little horrified. He guessed that the skills sent by the system might be very powerful, but he did not expect them to be of such strength. The realm of the eldest disciple is only the innate realm first layer, and the power of this magic palm move reaches at least the power of the innate realm 7th layer. You know, this master disciple has just learned the technique, and it can be said that he has not even reached basic accomplishment. If he practices seriously and takes time, he may be able to directly surpass a great realm and kill the enemy. Chen Yi nodded with satisfaction. Seeing the strength of his disciples, he himself was particularly happy. When Chen Yi redeemed the techniques practiced by the 3 disciples, the system directly gave him the realm of great accomplishment. He imitated the disciples' appearance, raised his hand, slapped a palm casually, and also released the demonic palm. The same evil spirit burst out from Chen Yi's palm, but unlike the disciple, as soon as his evil spirit appeared, it caused a strange change in the world, and the sun seemed to be enveloped and lost its color. Su Jiqian looked at her master and felt that there was an ancient demon venerable from demon race looking directly at her, which made her feel shuddering. But at the same time, looking at her master's unique beauty, her heart was filled with excitement. Another burst of peach blossoms bloomed. The master with this appearance is also very attractive. At this time, the demonic palm she struck had long been shattered into pieces and turned into bits of mist that dissipated in the air. Chen Yi took back the wind of his palm and said, "Go on, let me see your current strength." Su Jiqian came back to her senses after hearing her master's words and nodded seriously. This was a rare opportunity for her master to teach her practice in person, and she couldn't miss it. Thinking in her mind, she released the demonic palm again and attacked the master. Su Jiqian's cooing sounds kept ringing in the square, and she released her magic palm over and over again, attacking the master. Chen Yi was able to resolve it easily every time, and at the same time, he was able to guide her through several loopholes in her moves. After the 20th or so moves were released, the spiritual power in Su Jiqian's body was close to being exhausted, but she still did not stop attacking and was still releasing the demonic palm. The master didn't ask to stop, and this was a rare opportunity to practice with the master, so how could she be willing to end it? Soon after, with the final blow of the demonic palm, her body was already soaked with fragrant sweat. The spiritual power in her body was completely released by her. At this time, she felt exhausted all over and could not stand firmly. As her vision went dark, her body became light and she fell backward. Su Jiqian felt a little sad when she thought about the rare opportunity to have a sparring session with her master, but she was so weak that she fell down. Master will definitely think she is useless when he sees her in such a miserable state. If she can't even withstand a few attacks, Master will definitely be disappointed with her. Thinking of this, she felt extremely uncomfortable. Just when she was about to fall to the ground, the pain she imagined did not come. On the contrary, she unexpectedly felt some warmth and softness around her. She sniffed, and a pleasant fragrance came, and she subconsciously rubbed it in. After she had enjoyed enough, she opened her eyes again. As soon as she opened her eyes, she looked into Master's gentle eyes. Sure enough, only Master has such a pleasant smell. It turns out that she has always been in Master's arms. Su Jiqian was immediately attracted by Master's handsome face and froze on the spot. Soon after, she came to her senses again and said apologetically, "Master, it was Kainer's incompetence that made her fall down so quickly." Su Jiqian didn't know whether it was because of guilt or some other reason, but her cheeks turned red, even reaching her collarbone. Chen Yi shook his head and said softly, "It's not your problem. The devil's palm consumes a lot of spiritual power. You can release it more than 20 times in a row, which is already very good. Relying on this move, you can kill enemies of the same level with one move. It's not a bad idea to fight across levels. However, it's been too long since I taught you how to practice. It's my fault that I forgot to tell you to stop just now." After he finished speaking, he lowered his head apologetically and looked at Su Jiqian in his arms again. Su Jiqian is a succubus in every sense of the word. Not only her body, but also the smell exuding from her body is even more difficult for the opposite gender to resist. Chen Yi looked at the disciple in his arms, his breathing was a little short for some reason, and an evil fire started to burn in his heart. He quickly circulated his spiritual energy and suppressed the evil fire, and then he calmed down a lot. The eldest disciple in his arms was now very weak and could not even stand firmly. Chen Yi simply picked her up in a princess hug and walked towards her room. Su Jiqian felt a sense of weightlessness and subconsciously put her arms around her master's neck. Lying in master's arms, she could even hear master's strong heartbeat. Master's heartbeat was obviously much faster than normal. She looked at master's slightly red face again, and couldn't help but think of a possibility. Master carried her back to the house, wouldn't it be? If master wants it, Kyaner can do it at any time. Even in a weak state, she will cooperate fully. Although Su Jiqian is a succubus, she has never experienced anything between a man and a woman. When she thinks of what she might do in a while, she feels her face getting hotter and hotter, and her thoughts are wandering to nowhere. Soon, Chen Yi carried the eldest disciple back to her bedroom, and he placed the eldest disciple on the soft bed. Then he planned to transfer some spiritual power to the eldest disciple so that she would not remain in a weak state. But as soon as Chen Yi put his hand on the eldest disciple's back, he saw the eldest disciple suddenly turned around, hugged him tightly with both hands, and boldly pressed his soft lips against him. Chen Yi didn't expect that the eldest disciple who was so weak would suddenly hug him, and he was caught without any precautions. Chen Yi knew that it was wrong to do this, let alone in the disciple's boudoir. After all, even if something happens here, no one will see it. Chen Yi subconsciously wanted to push her away, but Su Jiqian directly held his hand and slid his hand down. Then Su Jiqian let go of master's mouth, looked at master with charming eyes, and said softly, Kyaner is willing to serve master. Master, Kyaner likes you very much, let's be together. Master must also like Kyaner, right? Su Jiqian boldly confessed. At this time, she was not suppressing her inner love and expressed all her thoughts. Chen Yi was not an idiot either. He was very shocked when he heard the eldest disciple's words. If the eldest disciple has always had these thoughts about him, then it turns out that the close and vague contact that the two of them have often had in the past few days was all intentional by the eldest disciple. In fact, Chen Yi has always liked his eldest disciple very much. The memories of his eldest disciple accompanying him over the years have made him also have deep feelings for him. In addition, in the past few days, there had been intimate contact, which made him have feelings for a man and a woman that he shouldn't have. It's just that he kept it hidden in his heart. Now that things have progressed to this point, there is no need for him to hide it anymore. Chen Yi did not reject the eldest disciple's love. This time, he responded boldly. Kyaner, my teacher also likes you. Before he finished speaking, Su Jiqian didn't know where she got the strength and sat up directly. The voluptuous thighs decorated with black stockings tightly wrapped around the master. A charming voice appeared in Chen Yi's ears. Kyaner knows master's thoughts. When Kyaner wore black stockings, master's eyes were straightened. Come quickly, master, come quickly, let's be with Kyaner. At this moment, Su Jiqian suddenly felt a soft touch on her lips. This time it was not her who took the initiative, but the master who kissed her first. Where is master? Weren't you still in the square just now, practicing with senior sister? Why is it that while I am practicing cultivation, the person disappears? Lang Luoli had just been meditating with Hu Juyu with her eyes closed, running spiritual power in her body, practicing the moves in the technique, and honing her memory of the technique. I just finished meditating, and when I opened my eyes, I suddenly found that two people had disappeared. Strange, where did master and senior sister go? Forget it, I still don't want to think about these anymore and just concentrate on practicing. When I practice my skills to the great accomplishment, I can use my great skills to protect master fiercely. Hey, Lang Luoli secretly smiled, the expression of this frosty beauty was unusually vulgar. Running spiritual power in the body, practicing meditation, is also a very physically demanding thing. She realized that she was sweating a lot, so she thought about going to the indoor hot spring to clean herself first. At this time, Hu Juyu was the only one left in the square. She was immersed in meditation and her white pantyhose were already soaked with sweat. But suddenly, she could vaguely hear in her ears, as if there was a sound coming from the room not far away, which made her unable to concentrate. Due to their structure, elves' ears are very sensitive and can subconsciously pick up things that ordinary people can't hear. Hu Juyu opened her eyes in confusion and looked at the senior sister's room. Where did the sound come from? It's strange. Master and senior sister weren't practicing just now. Why did they practice in the room? Hu Juyu felt extremely curious for a moment and stood up slowly. She originally wanted to release her spiritual consciousness and go in to explore the senior sister's room, so that she would know what was going on inside. But when you think that the master is still inside, it is a very impolite behavior to release your spiritual consciousness to explore what the master is doing. Moreover, when others release their spiritual consciousness to detect, the person being detected can also discover it. No matter what she said, she could not do anything to offend her master. But since she can't release her spiritual consciousness to explore, she should be fine if she uses her eyes to see. Thinking in her heart, Hu Juyu took a step forward and walked towards the senior sister's room. Not long after, she stood in front of the window of the senior sister's room, her face full of curiosity, and she put her eyes to the window. Then she saw a very shocking scene. There is something inside the window. Curtain. The curtains blocked the view inside, so she couldn't see anything. Hu Juyu was lying in front of the window, her cheeks turning slightly red. She felt guilty as a thief. It was wrong to spy on others like this. But she still couldn't help but want to see it. At this moment, Hu Juyu felt someone pat her shoulder. She had a guilty conscience to begin with, but when someone slapped her like this, she screamed and collapsed to the ground. She turned her head stiffly and found that it was the second senior sister Lang Luoli. While wiping her long hair covered with water drops with a towel, she looked at her doubtfully and said, "Junior sister, what are you doing here?" She had just finished taking a shower when she saw Hu Juyu lying in front of the window in a sullen manner, so she curiously came over to check. Hu Juyu shook her head with a flushed face and said unclearly, No, nothing done. After Chen Yi redeemed Tianshuan Palace, the disciples' bedrooms were extremely renovated, and the sound insulation effect became extremely good. As an elf, Hu Juyu could only hear a little bit, and as a human, Lang Luoli couldn't even notice it at all. Lang Luoli picked up Hu Juyu, who fell to the ground, and said, "Let's practice with senior sister first. Let's come to the square to practice. Really, I don't know where master and senior sister have gone. Is senior sister stealing food again?" Lang Luoli muttered, feeling a little uncomfortable when she thought that her senior sister and her master might secretly kiss somewhere. But even though her master is away, she can't slack off in her practice. After all, she still has to use her great skills to fiercely protect her master. Master Shuai, soon I will let you try the great skills of the second disciple. Keep protecting in different ways. Until exhausted. At this moment, Hu Juyu and Lang Luoli stood opposite each other in the open space of the square. Hu Juyu looked at the second senior sister's obscene smile, and the corners of her mouth twitched slightly. Didn't we agree to practice together? Second senior sister, what are you thinking about? Well, second senior sister, can we start now? Hu Juyu shouted softly. Hearing the junior sister's voice, Lang Luoli came back to her senses and wiped the saliva from the corner of her mouth in embarrassment. After readjusting her condition, she said seriously, "That's enough, junior sister, be careful." Ice falling technique. The ice falling technique is the first technique in the ice heart technique practiced by Lang Luoli. It is a very lethal and powerful technique. As the skill was released, snowflakes gradually began to scatter around Lang Luoli, and she slowly rose into the air, condensing a pure ice staff out of thin air in her hand. She held a staff and floated in the sky, and the temperature of the surrounding environment dropped. The ice and snow set off her temperament. At this moment, she was really like an ice and snow queen, sacred and inviolable. Soon after, multiple ice cones were formed in midair. The ice cones were as dense as a storm and could cover all areas in front of them. Before launching the move, she covered each ice pick with her own spiritual power to prevent her from accidentally hurting her junior sister. After taking protective measures, she knocked out the ice pick and attacked where her junior sister was. Hu Juyu held a giant sword as tall as herself. The giant sword looked very heavy, but due to the demonic heaven sword art she practiced, the giant sword could be easily swung in her hand. She was wearing a maid outfit and holding a giant sword. The contrast was a bit cute, and she looked like a battle maid. Looking at the incoming ice cone, she focused all her spiritual energy on the giant sword, and the giant sword began to tremble faintly, with a faint purple light emitting from it, which was very scary. He saw her clenching her hands, raising the giant sword in her hand, and suddenly swung it towards the ice pick. At the same time he shouted, "Executive killing." As her moves came out, majestic spiritual power burst out from the blade of her giant sword, turning into a deep purple sword energy and flying towards the ice cone. At the same time, the ground she stepped on collapsed due to the force, and the ground cracked with spider web-like cracks that extended out. The sound of the giant sword she wielded was very loud, and the sound of power seemed to shake the world, deafening. It's hard to imagine the power that a well-proportioned and plump elf maid could use at that time. One day later, outside the house, Lang Luoli and Hu Juyu were still sparring fiercely, but compared to the beginning, they changed from practicing skills to practicing physical skills. After all, the continuous release of moves consumes too much, even two people with excellent talents can't bear it and need time to rest. In Su Jiqian's room, Chen Yi had just finished sparring. At this time, Su Jiqian was lying softly on the bed, with her eyes closed, breathing evenly, and she was in a deep sleep. On the quilt, bright red roses bloomed in several places. But even though she was in a semi-drowsy state, there was a joyful smile on her lips. After being with her for so long and suffering so much, she was finally, truly together with her master. And she is the first. But even though she was a succubus and was very talented, she still fell asleep half-consciously until the next morning. If two junior sisters come, I'm afraid they may not be able to bear it. Therefore, it is better for her to get this blood. This is also for the safety of the two junior sisters. At this time, Chen Yi was sitting by the bed, looking at the eldest disciple who was smiling in his sleep, and he also smiled with relief. Now that he has developed this kind of relationship with his eldest disciple, he will definitely be responsible in the future. I'm afraid that in the future, I will not only compensate the eldest disciple with the relationship between master and disciple, but also compensate for something else. But no matter what, as long as he could see his eldest disciple thrive, he would be satisfied. Chen Yi looked at her sleeping face and tenderly stepped forward to kiss her forehead. Su Jiqian felt master kissing her in her sleep. Half asleep, she said vaguely, "Master, if you still want to, Kaianer can do it, you can continue." Chen Yi's mouth twitched twice as he listened to her vague words. Please, being a teacher is so lustful in your heart. How could he do a sneak attack on the eldest disciple who had been working all night? That certainly can't be done. Chen Yi smiled and helped her cover the quilt, then put on her clothes, opened the door and walked out. The two disciples hadn't seen him for a day and didn't know what was going on. To be honest, Chen Yi hasn't figured out how to explain his relationship with Su Jiqian to the two disciples. To put it bluntly, isn't it a bit too? In this world, it is very shameful to have that kind of relationship between a master and a disciple. What should two disciples do if they can't accept it and think he is a perverted master? In short, it's better not to say it yet. It's not too late to speak up until you can't hide it anymore. After Chen Yi left the eldest disciple's room, he walked towards the square. As soon as he arrived at the square, Chen Yi saw Hu Juyu holding a black giant sword and waving it in midair. The giant sword was stirred by her dancing, as if there was an ancient dragon sleeping in the giant sword. Every time she waved it, the giant dragon would wake up and let out a roar. But looking at her well-proportioned figure, it was hard for Chen Yi to imagine how those slender wrists could lift such a huge thing. This contrast is quite interesting. It was early in the morning, and the vibrant sunshine shone on Hu Juyu's wheat-colored skin. Her maid uniform was not tightly wrapped, and all the skin on her lower abdomen was exposed. At this time, a few drops of fragrant sweat slid down the waistcoat line on her lower abdomen, vividly reflecting the unique color of her skin and the beauty of her feminine muscles. On the other hand, Lang Luoli crossed her legs and meditated on the ground. The environment around her meditating was affected by her aura and changed accordingly, with little snowflakes floating around. There were a lot of white snowflakes on the top of her head and on her long eyelashes. She looked very beautiful, as exquisite as a handicraft, impeccable. Her slender and well-proportioned legs and feet, intertwined like that, are very eye-catching. However, at this time, Chen Yi only paused for a moment on their perfect bodies, and then quickly moved away. Without him, only the sage has time. Chen Yi walked forward and greeted the two disciples. When the two disciples saw the master coming, they both walked forward excitedly and said good morning. Lang Luoli, Master, good morning. Hu Juyu, Master, good morning. Chen Yi saw two very eye-catching disciples in the morning. They came forward to say good morning to him and couldn't help but smile with joy. The two disciples are full of energy now, and they are completely different from when he first transmigrated here. Being able to see everyone healthy and free of worries makes him, as a master, feel doubly happy. But even with Chen Yi's protection, the world is still full of dangers. He must teach his disciples to become stronger so that they can withstand possible crises at any time. Thinking in his mind, Chen Yi said to the two disciples, "Let me see the results of your practice, and I will guide you personally." Lang Luoli originally wanted to ask her master what he was doing when he disappeared yesterday. But when she heard the master said that he wanted to guide them in their practice, she didn't ask any more questions. After all, the master has his own personal affairs, and as a disciple, it is best for her not to interfere too much. The most important thing was that she didn't care no matter what the master went to do. As long as the master could come back safely and appear next to them the next day, she would be satisfied. As long as the master is still there, she doesn't care even if the master went to destroy the world yesterday. Lang Luoli and Hu Juyu came to the square together and demonstrated the moves obediently. Chen Yi was sitting behind the tea table next to the square, guiding them from time to time on a few loopholes in their moves. Time passed like this, and it wasn't until noon that Su Jiqian woke up from the room. She opened her eyes drowsily, feeling that her body was still a little tired, and the memories of yesterday reappeared in her mind. Recalling what happened yesterday, she smiled with great satisfaction. Now that she has done that kind of thing with her master, she can take more bold actions in the future, even in front of two junior sisters. Do what the two junior sisters dare not do. Junior sister Lang Luoli will definitely envy her to death. Thinking of this, she couldn't wait to see the master. After putting her clothes back on, Su Jiqian straightened her messy hair in the mirror before pushing out the door. After putting her clothes back on, Su Jiqian straightened her messy hair in the mirror before pushing out the door. As soon as she arrived at the square, she saw the master sitting at the tea table next to the square, instructing the two junior sisters in their cultivation. Su Jiqian walked over quickly, and first bowed to master to say hello. Then she saw that master's teapot was empty, so she planned to help master make a pot of tea. Seeing the eldest disciple appear, Chen Yi nodded with a smile and asked with concern, "Is your body okay?" When he asked this question, his cheeks turned slightly red, indicating that he was a little embarrassed. After all, he was the culprit who caused the eldest disciple to get up at noon. Su Jiqian knew what the master meant by asking her question, so she smiled brightly. Her expression was extremely charming, and she replied softly, "Thanks to master, I have recovered." While she was replying to master's words, she was helping him make tea, her slender hands constantly moving in front of her, very skillfully and professionally. While she was making tea for master, she would cover the teacup with her sleeves from time to time, as if she was doing some little trick. Soon after, Su Jiqian held the base of the teacup in both hands, handed it to the master, and said respectfully, "Master, it's ready, please drink." While speaking, she looked at master with excitement on her face, looking forward to master drinking the tea she made with her own hands. Seeing the eldest disciple's high interest, Chen Yi was embarrassed to spoil her mood and simply picked up the teacup. It's just that when the eldest disciple was making tea just now, he seemed to have done something small. He didn't look carefully at what exactly he did. Chen Yi hesitated for a moment and finally made up his mind. "Just drink it, can my eldest disciple harm me?" Chen Yi held the teacup and took a big sip directly. The aroma of tea flowed into his taste buds along his mouth. He smacked his lips carefully and tasted the taste. It tastes like tea, but there seems to be something else. He couldn't tell what the specific smell was, but it was somewhat familiar. Chen Yi looked at the eldest disciple in confusion, and was about to ask him what he had put in it. Then he saw the eldest disciple who was holding his face with both hands and whose pupils were pink and heart-shaped. He was looking at him with love on his face, and at the same time there was a trace of saliva flowing from the corner of his mouth. Chen Yi's eyes widened immediately when he saw the fragrant saliva. I asked why the taste is so familiar. Wait a minute. Disciple, you wouldn't put your own taste into the tea and give it to master to drink, would you? Do you want to be so perverted? Kaianer, shouldn't you? Chen Yi asked with a shocked face. When Su Jiqian saw that her master had guessed it, she stopped trying to hide it and said excitedly. Master, do you like the tea brewed by your disciple? If master likes it, the disciple will give it to master to drink every day. She was extremely happy when she thought of master drinking the flavored tea she brewed by herself. There is a very satisfying sense of possession. Although Chen Yi dotes on his disciples very much, he absolutely cannot agree with this matter. Without even thinking about it, he waved his hand and refused. Forget it, forget it. From now on, let's leave the tea-making work to your junior sisters. When Su Jiqian heard master's rejection, her disappointment was beyond words. Why doesn't master like her tea? Although she added a little bit of ingredients, the succubus's saliva can enhance the function. Master was busy for so long yesterday, and she just wanted to help him catch up. Su Jiqian said with a disappointed face. Master, do you dislike Kaianer? But when master and Kaianer kissed last night, they were obviously very happy. After taking off the burden of master and disciple, Chen Yi did not miss anything last night. But these are two different things. They absolutely cannot be confused. At this time, Leng Luoli and Hu Juyu had just finished practicing and planned to come over to take a rest together. Halfway there, Hu Juyu keenly heard the conversation between the two and asked doubtfully. While we were kissing, master, what were you talking about? When Chen Yi saw that Hu Juyu had heard the conversation between him and his disciple, his expression suddenly condensed. Too bad, bad food. The matter between him and his eldest disciple is not yet ready to be made public to everyone. Chen Yi quickly explained. It's nothing. You two must be tired after just practicing. I will teach you a way to meditate and rest, which can not only stabilize your cultivation but also restore your physical strength. Come, learn from me and sit down cross-legged. Chen Yi was afraid that Hu Juyu would continue to ask questions. It would be bad if he answered inappropriately and spilled the beans. Changing the topic casually, the three disciples were forced to sit down by their master with confused faces and began to meditate and adjust their breath. Su Jiqian watched master's changes throughout the whole process and kept smiling, unable to close her mouth from ear to ear. Master was shy just now, fearing that her relationship with master would be exposed. That must be the case. Since master wanted to hide it, it would be quite interesting for her to act in a show with master. When she thought about two lovely junior sisters being kept in the dark by her, she felt inexplicably excited. But she didn't know exactly how long she could keep it secret. Everyone likes master anyway, so even if one day he is exposed, it won't matter. However, the master obviously doesn't know this yet, so he is afraid that the two junior sisters will know. Su Jiqian thought to herself that this was good. If one day the master notices that Leng Luoli and Hu Juyu also like the master, then it will be difficult for her to enjoy the master's favor all by herself. Therefore, one more day can be hidden. After Su Jiqian made up her mind, she sat down cross-legged like her master and started meditating with her two junior sisters. The time for meditating passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye it was evening. The night is very quiet in the evening. People in this situation can always calm down and let their thoughts drift far away. The full moon hangs high in the sky tonight. Chen Yi remembers that it seems that in this world, today is a day for family reunion. When Chen Yi opened his eyes, he found that the second and third disciples were meditating seriously with their eyes closed. Only the eldest disciple had his eyes open, as if he was remembering something, a little absent-minded, and a little sad. Chen Yi came over, put his arm around her shoulders, hugged her into his arms, and asked softly. What are you thinking about? Let's talk to my teacher. Su Jiqian felt her master's warmth and smelled her unique fragrance, and her mood improved a little. She looked at master's handsome face and thought about whether she should confess this matter to master. When demon race's territory was besieged by decent monks, master stopped by and rescued her, while also protecting the safety of the rest of her tribe. But later, the master's temperament changed drastically. He was defeated after the war with Sanyuan sect, and his strength plummeted. The power of Profound Heaven sect was also completely destroyed. The fragile demon race lost its backer and was once again besieged by the decent monks. Now the clansmen are running away, dead and injured. In fact, over the years, every time Su Jiqian went on a mission assigned by her master, she would secretly investigate the whereabouts of the clan members and why the decent monks besieged them in the first place. Although their name is Demon Race, they have never done anything harmful. They have been running their own territory and living a peaceful life. After several years of investigation, Su Jiqian found a clue that the Sanyuan sect was involved in everything that happened and was the mastermind of this tragedy. And most of her clan members are now imprisoned in the dungeons of the Sanyuan sect, and they don't know what the situation is. What's even more heartbreaking is that Su Jiqian's investigation revealed that the Sanyuan sect may be using demon race's special physique to secretly refine powerful elixirs. The reason why Sanyuan sect can become one of the most powerful sects in this continent may be due to this reason. Although Su Jiqian has investigated everything clearly, she can only hide the information in her heart and dare not tell it. After all, she didn't have the ability to take revenge. Besides, according to Master's condition at the time, even if she said it, it would be useless, and she didn't want to implicate Master anymore. She could only keep this grudge secretly, hoping that one day she would be able to take revenge after she became stronger. But today is the day of reunion, and she misses her parents a little bit. Su Jiqian felt the gentle Master and subconsciously leaned against the Master's chest. No matter what, she was very satisfied with her master here and two lovely junior sisters. She opened her mouth and whispered, "Master, don't worry. Kyaner is very satisfied to see that Master has recovered and that the junior sisters are healthy." Chen Yi stretched out his hand to rub her head, and at the same time gently kissed her succubus horns with his mouth, and said softly, "My teacher said that I am responsible for you. You can tell me whatever you feel. My teacher has become stronger now. He has become very strong. He can defeat all enemies. You can speak to your teacher boldly, don't worry." He could tell that the eldest disciple seemed to be worried about something, so he didn't dare to tell him what was on his mind. What he just said was not an exaggeration. With his current ability, he could not imagine any force in this continent that could rival him. After all, the invincible start given by the system is not just talk. When Su Jiqian heard Master's words, she looked at Master slightly puzzled. Although the previous Master was very strong, he was still far from being able to defeat all enemies. But now that Master dares to say it so boldly, he must have great recognition of his own strength. The most important thing is that Su Jiqian recalled the skills taught to them by their master. The level of that skill was something they had never seen before. From what the master said, it might be an existence above the immortal level. Even the former master couldn't use this kind of technique, not to mention the immortal level or above, even the heaven level or the earth level. But today's master can take them out at will, and even allocate the most reasonable exercises based on each of their situations. This itself is unreasonable. She had been immersed in the joy of her master's recovery before, but she had never calmed down to think about it. Now that I think about it, including the Tianshuan palace where they live is so incredible. Could it be that after Master recovered this time, he not only regained his energy, but also awakened some super spiritual talent? Did he encounter a great opportunity? Or, the Master is a very powerful immortal, and he has been hiding it from them before? But no matter how she thought about it, Su Jiqian felt that what Master said was very likely to be true. If the Master is really that strong, then even if she tells the Master about her clan members, it should be nothing. Moreover, even if the Master has not become stronger, his mental state has recovered now, and he should not do anything reckless. So if this is the case, it should be okay if you say it. In fact, she didn't want to hide anything from her Master. Master is everything to her, and she can dedicate everything to him, not only her body, but also her soul. Thinking in her heart, Su Jiqian stretched out her hand, held Master's face, and planned to tell Master what she was thinking. But the current Master's unparalleled perfection made her defenseless at any time. Even now, she wants to ask for Master. Thinking to herself, looking at Master's perfect face, she licked her lips and leaned her head towards it. Chen Yi only felt that his lips were wrapped in a piece of softness. He enjoyed this soft feeling very much. But he hasn't forgotten that there are Lang Luoli and Hu Juyu beside him now, meditating with their eyes closed. Although you need to concentrate when meditating, there is definitely a possibility of being discovered. This is not okay. Absolutely not okay. This is not okay. No way. Chen Yi grabbed the eldest disciple's shoulders with both hands and wanted to push her away, but he never used the strength. The eldest disciple's offensive was very fierce, as if he was venting his disappointment not long ago. She told Master that she didn't like drinking her special tea, so this time she fed it all into Master's mouth. Look how Master still refuses. The night was very quiet, and the sound of the two kissing was extremely obvious. Hu Juyu's ears were very sensitive, and when she saw her delicate and flawless face, her eyebrows wrinkled, and then she opened her eyes a small slit and looked to the side in confusion. Next to her was her second senior sister Leng Luoli, who was still meditating with her eyes closed, breathing evenly and very focused. Next to the second senior sister, is the senior sister Su Jiqian. It's just that the senior sister is no longer sitting there, and the master has disappeared. Her eyes quickly swept across the field, and then she saw a very horrifying scene. Perhaps due to her double pupils, her eyes are extremely useful at night. She saw that in the open space not far away, the senior sister seemed to be eating her master. Wait, this isn't nibbling, it's... Realizing the current situation, she quickly twisted her neck back and closed her eyes tightly. At the same time, her cheeks were extremely red with embarrassment, even reaching the roots of her ears. The senior sister actually took advantage of their break to meditate to eat secretly. The rule of not stealing food was obviously set by the senior sister, but it seems that the senior sister has never followed it even once. The rule of not eating secretly was obviously set by the senior sister, but it seems that the senior sister has never followed it even once. Even though Hu Juyu saw something she shouldn't have seen, she could only shyly pretend not to know. This is due to her personality. If Leng Luoli had seen it, she would have gotten over to it. It's just that Leng Luoli is like the male protagonist in a certain movie. There's an earthquake outside, and she can sleep like a dead pig and can't get up. At this time, in the open space on the side, after Su Jiqian tasted enough of the fragrance, her hands began to become dishonest. This time Chen Yi finally came to his senses and quickly stopped him. His breathing was also a little rapid, but she still held back her composure and whispered. The two junior sisters are still here, we can't continue anymore. When Su Jiqian heard her master's words, she also came back to her senses and looked back at the two junior sisters with some trepidation. Fortunately it was not discovered. But if master wants to, it won't matter even if he is discovered. But if master still can't let go, then let's forget it for now. After the offensive ended, Su Jiqian nestled in her master's arms, and then she told her master what was on her mind. After Chen Yi learned the news, his expression gradually became serious. The demon race clan leader entrusted Su Jiqian to him, so that he could obtain such a great disciple. In view of his current relationship with the eldest disciple, demon race is considered half of his in-laws, and even if there is no such relationship, he still has to save him anyway. Now that he has absolute strength, it is time to avenge the Sanyuan sect. Chen Yi already had a plan in mind. Since he is now so strong that he doesn't have to fear any enemies, he might as well take the opportunity of destroying the Sanyuan sect to show his strength to the world. At that time, a lot of unnecessary friction will be reduced, and even if he wants to rebuild the sect, he will be as comfortable as a duck in water. Thinking in his mind, Chen Yi said to the eldest disciple, "Let's do this. You and Lear will go out together tomorrow to spread the news. Let's just say that the leader of the Profound Heaven sect has come out of seclusion and will destroy the Sanyuan sect within 3 days. Now all Sanyuan sect disciples have voluntarily withdrawn to survive, otherwise it will be too late. By the way, let's spread all the embarrassing things that Sanyuan sect has done secretly. Sanyuan sect has done so many bad things behind the scenes, but in the end, it turns out to be a residence of upright monks that is famous all over the world. It just so happened that he could take this opportunity to disgrace him and make him more righteous. Giving him 3 days was because Chen Yi felt that there were still many disciples in Sanyuan sect who did not know the truth, so he gave those people 3 days to leave. However, Chen Yi couldn't control whether those disciples would really leave, and he didn't bother to care. In this world, monks either kill or be killed. Those like him who tell the news in advance have done their best to be benevolent and righteous. Su Jiqian listened to her master's words and nodded seriously. At the same time, she was very shocked. The destruction of the Sanyuan sect was not a trivial matter, it was enough to shock the headlines of this continent. However, the master said it so plainly, as if he was talking about an inconspicuous trivial matter. How confident does the current master have that he dares to say this so easily? Thinking in her mind, she became more and more looking forward to it. The night was spent meditating and adjusting the breath. Su Jiqian and Lang Luoli went out of the mountain early the next morning. Now that both disciples have practiced the unification level technique, they will hardly encounter opponents in the same realm on this continent. Even an enemy at a higher level can easily escape, let alone two people traveling together. Moreover, Chen Yi had already left spiritual marks on the three disciples. If his life was in danger, he could discover it at any time. As soon as the first disciple and the second disciple left, the Tianshuan hall became a little deserted, and only Hu Juyu was left to accompany him. Hu Juyu is the lowest among the three disciples, only the first layer of the Haotian realm. When she and Lang Luoli were sparring before, Lang Luoli also deliberately suppressed the realm. After recent practice, she has felt that she has faint signs of breaking through to the second layer. Hu Juyu was half kneeling by the tea table, helping her master make tea. When Chen Yi saw her action, he wanted her to sit down. But Hu Juyu shook her head and insisted on staying by her master's side. Yuaa, I like to serve my master like this. Master, can you touch Yua's head? Hu Juyu placed the brewed teacup in front of the owner, and then said as if taking credit. Now that the two senior sisters in the hall have left, she has become a lot more courageous. He even dared to ask for a head pat. The action of touching the head is quite normal, so Chen Yi naturally has no reason to refuse. He stretched out his hand and rubbed Hu Juyu's head, and at the same time tasted the tea leaves Hu Juyu brewed. After tasting it, it turned out to be very normal tea. Rather than saying it's normal, it feels like it's missing a bit of flavor. Etc. As soon as this idea came to Chen Yi's mind, he suddenly realized something was wrong. Why does he seem to like the tea brewed by the first disciple? No, it must be corrected. At this time, Hu Juyu felt the gentle touch of her master, her expression became more and more enjoyable, and she gradually leaned on her master's leg. After enjoying enough, Hu Juyu said, Master, Yuaa feels like she's about to break through. Can you help Yuaa with her? Breaking through the realm is not an easy task. If you encounter bottlenecks and obstacles, you can rely on pills and the help of high-level monks to break through. At this time, the importance of apprenticeship is generally reflected. It's just that Hu Juyu is now a genius with 6th grade spiritual roots. It is almost impossible to encounter difficulties just by breaking through the acquired world from the first layer to the second layer. She actually said this on purpose. Chen Yi was feeling a little bored now, and when he saw Hu Juyu saying that he was going to make a breakthrough, he was also a little excited. There is a sense that the egg you hatched is about to finally break out of the shell. Strange metaphors increased. Chen Yi and Hu Juyu came to the square together, and they sat cross-legged. Chen Yi pointed one finger on Hu Juyu's eyebrows, released his spiritual power, and began to guide the spiritual power in her body to make a breakthrough. Hu Juyu could feel a trace of warm spiritual power entering her body and traveling around various places in her body. This made her feel like she was being seen through. No, this was not just seeing through the light, it was seeing through. Sometimes there will be pain when breaking through the realm. Hu Juyu's expression became more and more solemn, it should be reaching the critical point. If she were to break through by herself, Hu Juyu would definitely grit her teeth and push through, but with the master in front of her and the guidance of the master's spiritual power, she only felt more confident. The breakthrough in a small realm went very quickly. After the brief pain, Hu Juyu felt a sense of relief in her body. The breakthrough in a small realm went very quickly. After the brief pain, Hu Juyu felt a sense of relief in her body. When she activated the spiritual power in her body again, she obviously felt fuller and more ferocious than before. The breakthrough has been successful and we have reached the second layer of the acquired world. Realizing that she had succeeded in breaking through, she laughed happily, hugged the owner in front of her happily, and said excitedly, Thank you, Master, Yuaa has made a breakthrough. Master is the best. If it weren't for the master's powerful and ferocious spiritual power pouring into Yue's body, Yue wouldn't have been able to break through so smoothly. The moment she made a breakthrough, a system notification sounded in Chen Yi's mind. Third disciple Hu Juyu breaks through to the second layer of the Hautian realm, reward system points, 1000. Although Chen Yi's current strength is already invincible in this continent, there is no guarantee that there are any powerful immortals and great emperors out there. Due to Chen Yelingen's different talents, if he wanted to improve his strength, he could only rely on system points to exchange for realms. In other words, he is now teaching his disciples not only to compensate the 3 disciples, but also to make him stronger. Strong enough to be able to protect those around him at any time. Chen Yi was also very happy when he heard that the system clicked into the account. He hugged Hu Juyu with the same excitement and said at the same time, "As long as Yue keeps practicing, I believe that you will be able to keep up with the paces of the senior sisters soon." Chen Yi saw that she was in high spirits and helped her cheer up. Hu Juyu felt her master's warm body temperature and looked at his handsome face. She was very close to her master's lips. It seems that if you move slightly, you will bump into each other. When Hu Juyu heard that the master just mentioned senior sister, she remembered the scene last night. The senior sister took advantage of them all to meditate and adjust their breathing, and actually ate. She is also very envious of her senior sister. There is no one here now, so even if she accidentally kisses the owner, nothing will happen. Thinking in her heart, Hu Juyu's face slowly moved towards her. Chen Yi felt that the hug just now was caused by Hu Juyu's breakthrough and being too excited, and he did not expect the following move. Originally, he was thinking about how to encourage Hu Juyu, but he was kissed directly. Before he could even take precautions, his lips were wrapped in a piece of softness, and the tips of their noses touched together. The warm breath was so close, Hu Juyu put her hand on her master's chest, and could even feel her master's strong heartbeat. Her first real kiss, she used too much force and they accidentally fell to the ground. Although she knew that as a disciple, it was extremely disrespectful for her to do something like push her master to the ground, and it was a hateful and rebellious act. But she couldn't help it. Chen Yi only felt that the delicate body in his arms was extremely hot, and his breath was mixed with billowing heat waves. Chen Yi also came to his senses at this time. When he realized what happened in front of him, he suddenly felt bad. Now that he has developed that kind of relationship with his eldest disciple, he should reject Hu Juyu immediately. By doing this, he is undoubtedly cheating. And what's even worse is that he was the one who sent Su Jiqian and Lang Luoli away. Although Chen Yeji had no other intention in leaving the two of them, if they knew, he and Hu Juyu did such a thing after they left. I'm afraid I can't explain it clearly. Chen Yi imagined in his mind what it would be like if the eldest disciple learned about his cheating. In his mind, the charming eldest disciple was looking at him like he was looking at garbage, with great disgust. As soon as Chen Yi imagined this scene, he felt an inexplicable weird feeling. I always feel that this expression is quite interesting. Of course, this scene can only exist in Chen Yi's fantasy. The eldest disciple cannot show such an expression to his master under any circumstances. So his perverted idea had to go to waste. At this time, Hu Juyu had just finished one round of offensive and was about to stick in again. If she were normal, she would never be so bold. But today the two senior sisters were not here, which gave her a chance to attack. Chen Yi looked at Hu Juyu in front of him, and the elf girl's unique fragrance floated on the tip of his nose. It smelled very good. But no matter how good it smells, he can't continue. In Chen Yi's view, Hu Juyu, like Lang Luoli, had been staying with him for so many years and had never received that kind of education, so she did such a thing. This is his dereliction of duty and his fault. He should stop it instead of enjoying it. As for whether Hu Juyu had feelings for him that transcended the relationship between master and disciple, Chen Yi was not sure. After all, the great disciple has learned from the past. But whether there is or not, it is not the reason for his cheating. Besides, as a master, he cannot jump to conclusions. If Hu Juyu doesn't have that kind of emotion for him, isn't it because he is being sentimental? Chen Yi thought a lot at this moment. He knew very clearly that he must refuse. But looking at the exquisite face of the elf in front of him, slowly approaching, the hand he wanted to push away with force only felt softer and softer. The sage's time has long passed and he can't control it. At the same time, Hu Juyu's elf ears were seen moving. The mouth she originally planned to kiss suddenly withdrew it. Her ears were very sensitive, and she felt two figures flying towards this side quickly. It was two senior sisters who came back. Realizing that the senior sisters were back, Hu Juyu's expression became more and more panicked, and she quickly got up from her master's body. But at this time, Chen Yi was still preparing for a kiss and had not slowed down. It looks very funny. Hu Juyu was originally in a panic because she was eating secretly, but when she saw her master's appearance, she couldn't help but laugh. The owner is so lovely. Every time, I acted like I was definitely not going to do it, but I ended up enjoying it very much every time. Hu Juyu's heart became more and more determined. She could do something to her master that was even more contrary to the relationship between master and disciple. The master will definitely not refuse. Hu Juyu's ears are on his body, so he can hear a lot of things subconsciously. As for Chen Yi, although his spiritual consciousness can be released very far, he must release his spiritual consciousness when he wants to see it. That's why he showed up. Hu Juyu made him aware of the return of Su Jiqian and Lang Luoli first. At this time, Su Jiqian and Lang Luoli were very close to Tianshuan Palace. The two of them were on their way together. Lang Luoli was bored and chatted with her senior sister. Senior sister, when we were meditating together last night, did you hear any strange movement around you? I seemed to hear it vaguely, but when I was meditating and concentrating, I didn't pay attention. While meditating last night, Lang Luoli actually heard something like Hu Juyu. It wasn't because of how good her hearing was, but because Su Jiqian and Chen Yi made too much noise. However, Lang Luoli didn't think much about it at that time. She felt that there was still a master beside her and it should be nothing serious, so she didn't open her eyes to check. Fortunately, she didn't open her eyes, otherwise she would have seen a scene that made her uncomfortable. When Su Jiqian heard what her junior sister said, she pursed her lips and snickered, and her cheeks turned slightly red. It turns out that I was almost discovered yesterday. It's quite exciting to think about it. Secretly eating master in front of her junior sister gave her a great sense of accomplishment. Although Su Jiqian always liked having master all to herself, she never thought that master would really belong to her alone. It was only a matter of time before junior sister Lang and junior sister Hu succeeded. Moreover, the two junior sisters also stayed with the master for so long just like her. It would really be unfair if she was the only one enjoying it. Therefore, she wanted to cherish this momentary opportunity to have the master alone before the two junior sisters also pursued the master. Otherwise, there will be no chance in the future. Thinking in her mind, Su Jiqian planned to continue hiding it from her junior sister and replied, I didn't hear it. There are many monsters around here, maybe there are monsters causing trouble. Su Jiqian lied, her expression slightly unnatural. Lang Luoli was keenly aware of the changes in her senior sister. She moved her face closer and looked at her senior sister carefully. Why does she feel like it's not a goblin causing trouble? But senior sister, you vixen is causing trouble. When Su Jiqian saw her junior sister looking at her intently, her expression became even more unnatural, and she scratched the corners of her mouth awkwardly with her fingers. You, what do you think I'm doing? How can senior sister lie to you? Lang Luoli looked at her senior sister's guilty look and felt even more uncertain. However, the senior sister was being mean and refused to admit it, so she had no choice but to give up for the time being. The two of them quickly flew over Tianshuan Palace. As soon as she arrived home, Su Jiqian saw her master lying on the ground with surprise on her face, and quickly moved over. Master, what's wrong with you? Why are you lying on the ground? The ground is cold, get up quickly. Lie on Kyaner's lap, Kyaner's thighs are the softest. As Su Jiqian spoke, before the master could react, she knelt down and sat down, placing the master's head on her knee pillow. Chen Yi looked at the sudden appearance of the first disciple, and his body trembled. The reason why he is lying here is not because Hu Juyu just did it. Wait, the eldest disciple came back so soon, wouldn't he have seen what he and Hu Juyu just did? But looking at the eldest disciple's expression being so gentle, he probably didn't notice it. But having said that, he just lay on the ground for a while, and he didn't expect this benefit. I have to say that the eldest disciple's thighs are indeed very voluptuous, gentle and elastic, and there is even a pleasant body fragrance around them that is unique to the eldest disciple. The succubus body fragrance is simply irresistible to the opposite gender. At this time, Lang Luoli arrived late. Looking at the senior sister who had already snatched the master away, she puffed her mouth angrily and knelt down, not to be outdone. At the same time he said, "Master, Lear's thighs are also very comfortable. And Lear isn't wearing pantyhose." Lang Luoli did not wear pantyhose on her legs, and her shapely and slender snow-white legs were exposed in the air, while Su Jiqian wore black stockings. As Lang Luoli said this, she picked up the master and placed the master's head on her lap pillow. At the same time, he caressed the master's head infatuatedly, his face was full of love, and he looked extremely intoxicated. Chen Yi was moved before he could react. Although the second disciple's thighs were not as full and plump as the first disciple's, the soft touch of the skin came directly to her. The girl's skin was extremely moist, as if water would flow out of her if she pinched it. The fragrance of the second disciple's body is astounding to his nostrils. As soon as he smells it, he seems to feel a lot more at peace in his heart. It's very wonderful. Su Jiqian looked at the master who was taken away and said with some jealousy, "Junior sister, you are lying, I was the one who came first." She also wants to touch master's hair like this. Seeing this, Lang Luoli had no choice but to move closer with a face full of reluctance. The two of them put their knees together and placed the master in the middle, half of each other. Chen Yi was moved around by the two of them, his face full of confusion. The disciple's knee pillow was really comfortable, and he was immersed in it for a while. But now that he had reacted, he immediately realized something was wrong. "Please, he is the master. Why are you being fought over by two disciples like a baby now? Hey! What a majesty, what a majesty! You can't just fall into the lap pillow of a beautiful disciple. We must break free." Although Chen Yi thought so in his heart, he lay down for a while before slowly getting up. He first cleared his throat, trying to save the disappearing majesty, and said seriously, "Ahem, you two came back very quickly. Have you completed the task assigned to you by the master?" The two disciples looked at the master's pretended serious expression and felt their heart beat faster. The serious version of master is equally handsome. Master in any appearance is perfect and impeccable. Su Jiqian clasped her hands together and floated in front of her body. Her eyes were full of love as she looked at the master, and she replied absent-mindedly. Replying to master, "It has been completed. The news that Sanyuan sect will be destroyed in 3 days will soon spread to all the forces in this continent." Su Jiqian crossed her hands and floated in front of her body. Her eyes were full of love as she looked at the master, and she replied absent-mindedly. Replying to master, "It has been completed. The news of the destruction of Sanyuan sect in 3 days will soon spread to all the forces in this continent." After hearing this, Chen Yi nodded, pretending to be serious. Isn't the disciple's efficiency in doing things very fast? However, he always felt that the expressions the two disciples looked at him did not look like respect, but more like, they wanted to eat him. "Please, you must be very serious as a teacher, okay? Master Chen Yi is also full of majesty today." Seeing that the 3 disciples were all present, Chen Yi readjusted his state and said to the 3 of them, "Since there are still 3 days left, you can't neglect your practice. I will continue to guide you in your practice. Hu Juyu is only a monk in the Hautian realm, and will receive 1,000 system points as a gift when he breaks through." And Chen Yi broke through to the next level, 20,000 system points. According to the rules of the system, the higher the realm of a disciple, the more system points he will gain when he breaks through. Chen Yi has begun to look forward to the breakthrough of the other 2 disciples. As a master, he must work hard. Su Jiqian jumped up excitedly when she heard master said that he would guide them in practice, and said happily, "Okay, I love practicing with master the most." Chen Yi looked at the eldest disciple's enthusiastic appearance and suddenly remembered the last time he practiced. Halfway through the practice, Chen Yi carried the weak eldest disciple back to the room, and something indescribable happened after that. The eldest disciple is so excited, shouldn't he think that this kind of thing will happen during this practice? As a teacher, I will seriously guide you in your practice. I have no other meaning. Lang Luoli stepped forward and took master's hand. She put the other hand on her chest and said softly, "Master, the senior sister you guided in practice last time, it's Lear's turn this time." Seeing that her junior sister had taken the lead, Su Jiqian's interest was immediately extinguished. "I forgot that there are two junior sisters. But if you think about it carefully, everyone is a good disciple of Master, how can she monopolize it all by herself? Let's give this opportunity to junior sister for the time being." Chen Yi listened to the second disciple's words and felt that they made sense, so he nodded. Soon after, the two stood opposite each other in the open space of the square. Chen Yi waved to the second disciple, indicating that she could take action. Lang Luoli touched her chin with her hand, as if thinking about something. The last time the senior sister and the master practiced, the senior sister seemed to keep releasing moves. After releasing the moves until her spiritual power was exhausted, she got the benefit of being hugged by the master and princess. This time it's her turn. Should she keep releasing her skills? When she falls, she can do the same. Not a bad idea, just do it like this. After making up her mind, Lang Luoli showed an unconcealable smile and said to her master with a smile, "Master, be careful." As soon as she finished speaking, she released her own move, Ice Falling Technique. She first condensed a pure ice staff out of thin air. There was a trace of cold air exuding from the staff, and countless spiritual powers emerged from it, forming large snowflakes in the sky. Soon after, ice picks containing murderous intent emerged one by one, and then they stabbed down like raindrops in a storm. At the same time, with Lang Luoli as the center, the surroundings seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. If someone was enveloped within the range, all actions would be significantly restricted, making it difficult to move and attack. Chen Yi looked at the moves released by the second disciple and nodded with satisfaction. After just a few days of practice, he is already able to use it so flexibly. With this move alone, it is not a problem to deal with multiple enemies in the innate realm at the same time. The difference between Lang Luoli's skills and moves and Su Jiqian's are that Su Jiqian's moves are more lethal to a single enemy, while Lang Luoli's attacks are more group-based and can attack and contain multiple enemies at the same time. If the two of them join forces with a tacit understanding and fight against the enemy together, their power will definitely be extremely terrifying. Chen Yi thought in his mind, and casually stretched out his hand, and a burst of spiritual power burst out from his fingertips, directly smashing the ice pick into smithereens. "Not bad, continue," Chen Yi said with satisfaction. Lang Luoli couldn't help but be a little surprised when she saw that her full blow was shattered so easily by her master. Although the master is a monk who is 2 realms higher than her, but if he wants to resist the attack she just made, he must at least use a skill and move, right? In the end, Master didn't even need to use any moves, he just clicked lightly and it was solved. "You are worthy of being a master, you are so awesome." After receiving the master's affirmation, Lang Luoli became more interested and continued to release skill attacks. Chen Yi fought with ease every time, and at the same time guided Lang Luoli, teaching her shortcomings in releasing moves. Time passed quickly. Lang Luoli's large-scale magic moves consumed extremely spiritual energy when released. After more than 10 rounds, he was exhausted. Lang Luoli could feel that the spiritual power in her body was becoming increasingly empty. As long as she released the last 2 moves, she would fall to the ground as weak as her senior sister. Then you will enjoy Master's warm princess hug. Moreover, after the senior sister was taken away that day, she didn't know what she was doing. She disappeared for a day and then appeared. She also wanted to experience what it was really like. Thinking in her heart, Lang Luoli was about to unleash her moves. But at this moment she heard the master's voice. "That's enough, Lear, sit down and rest for a while. If you use any more moves, you will collapse," Chen Yi said to the second disciple. He didn't want to make the same mistake as last time and forget to tell his disciple to stop, which would eventually lead to his disciple's spiritual power being depleted. "So you still need to take a proper rest." But after Lang Luoli heard the master's words, she was stunned on the spot. "What? Now you can rest?" This is different from what she thought. Why did she change when she came here? She also wanted to collapse into Master's arms. Chen Yi didn't know the second disciple's little thoughts. After guiding the second disciple in practice, it was already evening. After a busy day, and being pushed down by the third disciple in the morning, he also accumulated a lot of sweat beads on his body, so he thought of taking a bath to relax before continuing to guide his disciples in their practice. "You guys take a rest first and take a bath first," Chen Yi said to the 3 disciples, and then walked towards the hot spring in the house. Arriving at the indoor hot spring, Chen Yi changed his clothes and soaked in it comfortably. The warm hot spring water enveloped him. At this moment, he felt extremely relaxed, and the thoughts in his mind became much clearer. Chapter 31. Chen Yi was transmigrated and inherited the memories of this body. He also knows how cruel this fantasy world is. If it weren't for the company of 3 disciples, he actually wouldn't like living in this world at all. In other words, the 3 disciples are everything to him now, the goal for which he works hard and strives. But Chen Yi still remembers that in his former Profound Heaven sect, there were many disciples and elders who died because of him. At that time, the previous host launched a war against the Sanyuan sect. After the previous host was defeated, although many disciples ran away, the majority of the disciples and elders stayed to fight and escorted the previous host to escape. But without exception, they all died in battle. The 3 disciples beside him now can be regarded as the last survivors. Although Chen Yi has recovered now, he can no longer compensate those loyal ministers who have died. Chen Yi knew clearly that those disciples and elders who died to escort him did not do that for him. Because what the previous host did has broken the hearts of the loyal ministers. The reason why the loyal ministers wanted to save Chen Yi was because they hoped that he could one day recover and rebuild the former Profound Heaven sect. The former Profound Heaven sect was undoubtedly the most special existence on this continent. The original owner of this body seemed to have a mind that did not belong to this world. He treats his compatriots well and does not discriminate against other races. The Profound Heaven sect he established on this continent is the best haven and the only paradise for countless monks of different races. Countless disciples and elders who were exterminated, hunted, and discriminated against found a new home and new hope of living here. Chen Yi felt that since he had recovered now, he should rebuild the Profound Heaven sect, at least to live up to the disciples and elders who died for him or the Profound Heaven sect. Even in this cruel fantasy world, he still wants to rebuild the harmonious Profound Heaven sect. It can be regarded as an explanation for the dead. At this time, Chen Yi soaked half of his head in the hot spring, thinking a lot. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. It seems that he still has a lot to do in the future. At this time, outside the hot spring, above the square, Su Jiqian watched the 2 junior sisters meditate and adjust their breath seriously, while she stood up gracefully and walked out with cat steps without being noticed. She walked straight towards the indoor hot spring. When she arrived at the door of the indoor hot spring, Su Jiqian knew that Master was still inside, but she still opened the door and walked in without knocking. After entering, he also locked the door. Chen Yi didn't expect that he would be attacked while taking a bath, so he left the door unlocked. Looking at the disciple who suddenly rushed in, he looked confused and said, "Kaianer, why are you here? Wait a minute, I haven't washed myself yet." Su Jiqian looked at Master's panic, walked forward, and said with a smile, "It's okay, Master, isn't this good?" Hearing the words of the eldest disciple, Chen Yi was even more confused. What does it mean to be just right? But then, he heard a plop, and another person appeared in the hot spring pool. Then his lips were wrapped in a burst of softness, and the eldest disciple hugged him. Feeling the scent of the succubus, Chen Yi also knew what was going on. The eldest disciple sneaked out while others were not paying attention and came to find him. Su Jiqian's face showed a hint of jealousy. After their lips parted, she said coquettishly, "I originally wanted to practice with Master today, but junior sister Lang beat me to it." Looking at the sweet relationship between Master and junior sister Lang, Kaianer is so envious. Kaianer doesn't care, I want it. Su Jiqian is no longer a fledgling succubus, and she has become more bold when expressing her feelings to her master. Although Su Jiqian knew that she could not monopolize the master alone, after all, 2 junior sisters also had to guide the practice. But she still wanted to spend more time with Master. Seeing junior sister Lang and her master practicing together for so long, she felt envious. So she decided to make up for herself. After all, she now has the ability and the right to get something from her master that both junior sisters can only hope for. Let the junior sisters be envious, hee hee. When Su Jiqian thought of this, the smile on her face became even more charming. Chen Yi blushed when he saw the eldest disciple being so direct, and at the same time he understood why the eldest disciple was jealous. But it was inevitable and unavoidable for him to guide Lang Luoli and Hu Juyu in their cultivation. We must teach the eldest disciple well and correct her thoughts. As the saying goes, teaching by words is worse than teaching by example. Chen Yi thought to himself, looked at the eldest disciple in front of him, and took the initiative to kiss him. At this time, outside the indoor hot spring, on the square of Tianshuan Hall. The indoor hot spring is actually not far from the square. Maybe the system was originally designed so that you can bathe and clean in time after practicing. At this time, Hu Juyu and Lang Luoli had just finished meditating, and they planned to practice sparring. The two stood opposite each other, and the place where Hu Juyu stood happened to be on the side close to the indoor hot spring. Hu Juyu adjusted her breath and originally planned to summon the giant sword given to her by her master and start practicing. But she suddenly seemed to hear something. It sounded like the voice of a senior sister. Still a little miserable, as if begging for mercy. Lang Luoli stood opposite Hu Juyu. She saw that Hu Juyu was in a daze and reminded. Junior sister, be careful, senior sister is about to start. Hu Juyu waved her hand to senior sister Lang, her expression a little surprised or nervous, and said. Wait a minute, senior sister Lang, I think I heard something. It seems that the master is beating senior sister Su again. When Lang Luoli heard what her junior sister said, she quickly walked over and asked doubtfully. Are you serious? Why didn't I hear you? Oh, by the way, I forgot that your ears are particularly sensitive. But it shouldn't be the case. Master has already recovered. How could he beat senior sister Su? Lang Luoli looked at her with a dubious expression, as if to say that you must have heard wrong. Seeing that senior sister Lang didn't believe it, Hu Juyu hurriedly explained. It's true, I really heard it, right over there. I'll take you. In this way, the two of them came to the door of the indoor hot spring together. Lang Luoli and Hu Juyu came to the door of the indoor hot spring together. The two stood at the door and put their ears to the door at the same time. The two looked at each other, their expressions a bit at a loss. In the past, when Master had not recovered, even if they knew that Master was beating someone, they had no right to step forward and stop him. Usually after the Master finishes whipping, other people go up to help heal the wounds. But now that Master has recovered, why is he still beating people? Hu Juyu listened to the sound inside the door at this time. For some reason, her cheeks turned slightly red. She asked Lang Luoli in a low voice. Sister Lang, what should we do? Hu Juyu didn't dare to make decisions without authorization. If she opened the door and went in at this time, she would see the owner taking a shower. Outside, I saw the owner taking a shower. Thinking of this, her beautiful hands couldn't help but grab the door handle. At the same time, his expression became more and more confused, and he didn't know what he was laughing at. Lang Luoli watched her movements, and just when she was about to succeed, she quickly grabbed her wrist and said slightly surprised. Junior sister, what are you doing? If you disturb Master, you will be punished. Hu Juyu was interrupted, suddenly came to her senses, and explained in a panic. N summation O_O winking face, senior sister Lang, I don't know why, but my hands started to move on their own. Then, what should we do now? Hu Juyu couldn't make up her mind, so she asked senior sister Lang. Lang Luoli's expression was a little sad. After thinking for a while, she said. Although we don't know what happened, in order to prevent senior sister from being injured, we still prepared medicines and supplements in advance and waited for senior sister to come out so that we can help her heal her injuries as soon as possible. This process was used frequently before Master recovered. I didn't expect that it can still be used now. Just thinking about her gentle Master's absence made Lang Luoli extremely disappointed. She hasn't won Masters, does this mean she has no chance? But it was okay, after all, neither she nor the senior sister got it, so it was balanced. When Master recovers next time, she will definitely take first place. Hu Juyu nodded, feeling that senior sister Lang's method was reliable, and that was the only way for now. In this way, the two of them prepared the medicine in advance and waited at the door. It was early morning the next day. At this time, Su Jiqian had already put on her clothes and was arranging her hair in front of the indoor hot spring mirror. His expression was extremely satisfied. He even looks better. After tidying up her appearance, Su Jiqian slowly stood up from the chair. For some reason, her legs trembled slightly and she lost her balance. Chen Yi supported her beside him, so she didn't fall down. Chen Yi looked slightly apologetic and asked gently, "Are you okay? Do you want to take a rest?" Su Jiqian supported her master's body and readjusted her condition. Although she didn't fall asleep directly this time, she was very tired afterwards. If others knew that she, a monk from the innate realm, could no longer even stand, they would definitely be ridiculed. After 2 experiences, Su Jiqian also discovered that she might not be able to bear the master's love. From now on, it would be best for her not to disturb master and his 2 junior sisters as they practice cultivation. We need to get them together as soon as possible and have a few more sisters to share the burden. Su Jiqian looked up at her master with an extremely charming expression and said softly, "Yesterday, when master taught his disciples values, he was not so gentle." Hearing the eldest disciple's questioning, Chen Yi scratched his cheek in embarrassment. Chen Yi explained, "That's because." Before he could finish speaking, Su Jiqian stood up on tiptoes and kissed him. After a long time, the 2 separated again. Su Jiqian licked her lips and said in a charming voice, "No explanation is allowed. This disciple is fine. Let's go out." The 2 junior sisters haven't seen anyone for another day. They must have been waiting impatiently. Chen Yi's face turned rosy when he was kissed by the disciple's sudden attack. I have to say that the eldest disciple is really getting better and better at it. In this way, Chen Yi supported Su Jiqian and pushed open the door of the indoor hot spring together. As soon as she opened the door, Su Jiqian saw 2 junior sisters standing in the corridor at the entrance of the indoor hot spring. When Lang Luoli saw the senior sister appearing, she immediately handed over the blanket and wrapped the senior sister tightly. This blanket is specially made to resist wind and dust and reduce the pain of wounds. Su Jiqian was immediately confused when she saw junior sister Lang's actions. What's happening here? If junior sister Lang doesn't go to rest, why are you waiting here to put a blanket on her? Before Su Jiqian could figure out the reason, Hu Juyu stepped forward and stuffed the healing pill that had been prepared into her mouth. Su Jiqian, you two, what are you doing? A healing pill was stuffed into her mouth, and she spoke vaguely. Su Jiqian was extremely confused at this time. When did the 2 junior sisters care about her so much? Is this because she was worried that she would be weak after her recent relationship with master, so she prepared the healing pills in advance? That's not right. Junior sister Lang is not so kind, right? According to the junior sister Lang in her memory, if she knew that she, a senior sister, was eating secretly, she would definitely be angry. When did you become so generous? After Hu Juyu gave the healing pills to the senior sister, she came to the master again, looked at the master softly, gently held the master's hand and said, "Master, if you haven't calmed down yet, come and give me a moonlight. Uaa, you can live with it as long as you can." Listening to Hu Juyu's words, Chen Yi's face was filled with questions. What the hell? He had just finished satisfying himself and was feeling very comfortable. Why was he angry? Hu Juyu is she acting coquettishly to him? Chen Yi thought Hu Juyu was acting coquettishly towards him, so he simply stretched out his hand, intending to rub her head. When Hu Juyu saw her master reaching out, she thought he was going to hit her, so she closed her eyes nervously. But not long after, Hu Juyu felt no pain, but instead felt a very comfortable feeling coming from the top of her head. It was the owner who was gently stroking the top of her head. Hu Juyu looked at her master's gentle expression and realized that her master had not changed and was still the same gentle master. Owner. Realizing that her master had not changed back, Hu Juyu hugged her master excitedly and rubbed her arms hard. Chen Yi stroked her back lovingly and said doubtfully, Okay, what's going on with you guys? Lang Luoli looked at the dazed master in front of her and gradually understood. Didn't master hit senior sister? Master or the gentle master? But she clearly heard it last night. Not sure, just take a look and find out. Thinking to herself, Lang Luoli took off the blanket for her senior sister, got in, and observed carefully. Su Jiqian looked at junior sister Lang who suddenly came over and felt itchy. She pushed her with her hand and said, "Haha, what are you doing, junior sister?" Not long after, Lang Luoli got out of the blanket again, looked at the senior sister excitedly, grabbed her hand and said, "You're really okay, senior sister. It's really great that you're okay." While saying this, Lang Luoli hugged her tightly excitedly. Although the two often quarreled, their relationship has never been shaken. Last night, she felt extremely uncomfortable thinking about how her senior sister was suffering. Seeing that her senior sister and master were fine today, the big stone in her heart fell. Su Jiqian looked at junior sister Lang, who was so excited, and patted her back in confusion. After carefully thinking about the cause and effect of the matter, Su Jiqian finally came to her senses. The conversation between her and her master yesterday might have been overheard by two junior sisters. That's how the current scene happened. Thinking of this, Su Jiqian still felt a little ashamed and shy. You should be more careful in the future, and don't make the two junior sisters worry in vain. Lang Luoli hugged her senior sister. Before she could hold her for a while, she suddenly disappeared. Su Jiqian looked in front of her in confusion. She was acting coquettishly in her arms just now. Why did she disappear? She turned around and saw that junior sister Lang had already run into her master's arms to act coquettishly. Good guy, what a good junior sister to you. Just give me a false shot, right? I'm so moved for nothing. Be careful from now on, senior sister, I will do it in front of you, ah hey. Lang Luoli now had a look of success, with a snicker on her lips. Senior sister is still too young. Thinking in her heart, Lang Luoli held her master's chest with one hand, looked at him with a tender expression, and said in a very clear voice, "Master, I am still a little worried about your condition. Can I let my disciples take a look?" Chen Yi heard the second disciple's question and didn't quite understand it. How to see this? Before Chen Yuan could say anything, Lang Luoli seemed to have read through the master's thoughts and slowly moved her head towards him. A piece of softness enveloped it, and the girl's fragrance exploded in Chen Yi's mouth, and the soft body fragrance unique to Lang Luoli filled the tip of his nose. I don't know if it's because of the cultivation technique, but Lang Luoli's body feels cool most of the time, even on a scorching summer day. But at this time, because of the direct contact with the master, her entire body temperature was rising. After a long time, the two gradually separated. Lang Luoli's face was flushed, her eyes shyly looked at the master's chest, and she whispered, "Master, just look at it this way. This is indeed the best way to test master's current situation. As long as she kisses her and the master doesn't refuse, then the master will still be the gentle master." Although Chen Yi was in his time as a sage, Lang Luoli's unique cold charm was no less tempting to him than the succubus disciple. This made his face extremely red. But Chen Yi didn't forget that the eldest disciple who had just finished with him was still there. Did he just cheat on me in person? Chen Yi turned his head with a guilty conscience and carefully looked at the condition of the eldest disciple. The eldest disciple's reaction was unexpectedly beyond his imagination. The eldest disciple was actually looking at the sky, pretending not to see anything. As if they were afraid of disturbing the two of them. Wow, what is going on? Strange, very strange. Little did Chen Yi know that even though he was as powerful as the succubus disciple, he had given up on the idea of monopolizing his master not long ago. If you ask why, it's because your body can't bear it. At this time, Hu Juyu clasped her fingers. After hesitating for a long time, she mustered up the courage and said seriously, "Master, UAA also wants it." Chen Yi. Chen Yi didn't expect that Hu Juyu, who had always been shy, would dare to say such bold words. And this was even when both senior sisters were present. What Chen Yi didn't know was that Hu Juyu was extremely happy after learning that her master had not changed. After the tension disappeared, she desperately wanted to be compensated. But no matter what, he was still a little embarrassed to let Chen Yi take the initiative to kiss Hu Juyu in front of all the disciples. It would be okay if he was the eldest disciple. After all, they already had that kind of relationship. At worst, they could just confess. But when he took the initiative to kiss Hu Juyu, the meaning was different. It was more like an explicit courtship. After all, he is not as innocent as other disciples. The disciple took the initiative to kiss him, maybe simply to express his excitement, but he understood everything. Of course, the above sentence is Chen Yi's inner thought. He doesn't know that his disciple knows better than him. At this time, after Chen Yi had made enough preparations in his mind, his head started to move slowly as if he had made up his mind. But before he could take the initiative, he felt his neck being hugged tightly, and then a soft feeling came from his lips. Well, another day when I was actively pushed down by my disciples. After a long time, Hu Juyu let go of her master, and steam seemed to rise from her shy head. At this time, Chen Yi let out a long sigh of relief. The two disciples shouldn't have to worry about him this time, right? Seeing that the two disciples' emotions had stabilized, Chen Yi gently stroked their heads and said, "You haven't rested all night, so go back and take a nap first. My teacher will guide you in your practice at noon." The two disciples nodded in unison and then left obediently. In Lang Luoli's room, Lang Luoli finally felt relieved after learning that her master and senior sister were both fine. Back on the bed, Lang Luoli hugged the quilt beautifully and planned to sleep comfortably. Only by falling asleep earlier and adjusting your state can you see master in a perfect posture. Lang Luoli's beautiful eyes gradually closed. The decoration of this room was very luxurious, but under her perfect appearance, it seemed a bit indifferent. When she was about to fall asleep, Lang Luoli thought of what happened just now. When she was about to fall asleep, Lang Luoli thought of what happened just now. She and junior sister who both kissed the master just now. But senior sister, it seems there isn't one. It's really strange. If it were in the past, the senior sisters would definitely rush to come up. Today's senior sister was uncharacteristically uncharacteristic. But if you think about it carefully, it's really pitiful that the senior sister didn't get to see the master in person, hee. Thinking of this, Lang Luoli couldn't help but smile, with a look of satisfaction on her face. After covering herself with the quilt, she planned to have a good sleep. Soon after, half asleep and half awake, just when she was about to fall asleep, her willow eyebrows frowned more and more, as if something suddenly occurred to her, her face gradually darkened. The surrounding temperature seemed to have dropped a bit. Wrong, 100% out of 10 wrong. Just now, she was immersed in her master's gentle embrace and found that her senior sister was not injured, so she relaxed her vigilance. Ignore these major vulnerabilities. If master didn't hit senior sister, then what would have happened during the whole day and night when master and senior sister were together? What happened? The more Lang Luoli thought about it, the more incredible she felt, and she suddenly sat up from the bed. His expression was filled with disbelief. She seemed to want to understand something. Strange sounds, two people appeared together and disappeared together. As long as you are not a fool, you can see that something is wrong. Hu Juyu, who was sleeping soundly, suddenly sneezed. Hu Juyu. Ha! At this time, Lang Luoli was holding the quilt tightly with both hands and could not calm down for a long time. I sat up in a dying dream, the clown was actually me. No wonder the senior sister is out of character today, it turns out she's full. After thinking for a long time, Lang Luoli lay down again and covered herself with a quilt. In short, I must find a chance to ask my senior sister. You are no longer as simple as stealing food. You are already stealing. Time slowly came to noon. After Lang Luoli and Hu Juyu took a nap, they went to the square to meet their master. At this time, Chen Yi happened to be instructing Su Jiqian, who had just recovered, to practice. When he saw the two people coming, he planned to let the eldest disciple take a rest and continue practicing with someone else. Chen Yi said to Hu Juyu, "It's your turn, Yue, let me see how you are doing with your giant sword." When Hu Juyu heard this, her expression was extremely excited. Finally I can practice with my master. She has been preparing for this moment for a long time and will surely impress her master. The two came to the square and stood facing each other. Hu Juyu summoned the giant sword given to her by her master. The giant sword was as tall as a man, with rune patterns engraved on the sword, and golden light faintly exuding from the patterns. There is a terrifying aura in it, as if just waving it, it can destroy everything with unstoppable force. This giant sword was redeemed by Chen Yi in the system store, and its level is naturally ridiculously high, surpassing the strongest being in the world. It's just that Hu Juyu's realm is still very low, and he may not be able to unleash the full strength of this giant sword. Chen Yi waved to Hu Juyu, indicating that she could take action. Hu Juyu bowed respectfully in the direction of the master and said at the same time, "Master, be careful, this disciple is rude." In order to show all her strength in front of her master, Hu Juyu adjusted the spiritual power in her body to its optimal state. She saw her clenching the giant sword in her hand, and after containing all the spiritual power in it, she suddenly raised the giant sword. A violent sound broke through the air, and the swing of the giant sword sounded like the roar of an ancient dragon. Executive killing. After raising her giant sword, she suddenly swung it downward, and she released the first move in the demonic heaven sword technique, the immortal killing slash. A fierce sword energy burst out from it, and the square under his feet was instantly turned into ruins and debris by the sword energy. This sword energy is like a tornado, destroying everything in its path. The square of Tianxuan Palace is specially built, and it is difficult to destroy it with ordinary attacks, but it still cannot withstand the immortal killing strike. The power of this move is just like its name. When you reach the great accomplishment, you may be able to kill the real immortals in this world. Although the square was damaged by the moves, there is no need to worry, everything in the Tianxuan Palace will be repaired and restored to its original state. Chen Yi looked at the whistling sword wind with slightly surprised eyes. Perhaps it was due to the skills and moves. Even though Hu Juyu was only in the Haodian realm, a realm lower than the two senior sisters, the power of the moves he released was not necessarily much lower. You must know that the three disciples practice the same level of skills, so theoretically there shouldn't be much difference. However, Chen Yi also saw the loopholes in Hu Juyu's moves. Although the moves she unleashes are incredibly powerful, they require some time to prepare and warm up. When releasing a powerful attack at the same time, you will remain frozen for a long time, making it easy for enemies to take advantage of you. Compared to the eldest disciple, although both of them have very lethal skills, the eldest disciple's attack moves are more flexible. If when fighting an enemy, the first disciple and the second disciple are restrained, and at the same time, the third disciple is given time to prepare for an explosion. If the three of them join forces, their power will probably be outrageous. Moreover, the three disciples have relied on each other and have been together for so many years. Their tacit cooperation will only make them stronger when facing the enemy. If it were a monk from this continent, it would be entirely possible to fight him across two realms. Only then did Chen Yi realize that when the system equipped its disciples with special skills, it had already thought of this. At this time, Chen Yi had to sigh, the system is really not so considerate. System. When you use me, think of me, right? Hearing the system's complaints in his mind, Chen Yi scratched his head in embarrassment. Looking at the sword wind whistling in front of him, Chen Yi stretched out two fingers and pointed at the sword wind that had flown in front of him. The sword wind shattered instantly and turned into nothing. Hu Juyu looked at the master in surprise, just like the expressions shown by the two senior sisters when they saw the master's strength for the first time. Just relying on your body and being casual, can you defeat her with a full blow? The master is so awesome, and so handsome. Who can stand up to this? Seeing her master's perfect appearance, she even felt a little lost for a moment. At this time, Chen Yi walked to Hu Juyu's side, took the giant sword in her hand, and taught her the shortcomings of her moves just now. Hu Juyu seemed to be serious in nodding her head and taking notes, but in fact she didn't listen at all. She looked at her master with ardent eyes, thinking all about how to tear off his fig leaf. Soon after, Chen Yi finished saying everything he needed to say and continued. You've noted it down, right? Then you can use your moves to show me your master. Hu Juyu was stunned when she heard her master's instructions. She was just dealing with her master, but actually she was looking through her master's collar and peeking at his chest and side. In fact, she didn't listen at all. Now the master asks her to release some moves, what should she do? She has never been good at lying, so she chose to tell the truth. I'm sorry, master, UAA didn't learn. Chen Yi was not tired of hearing Hu Juyu's words. In order to better correct her posture, Chen Yi directly grabbed her hand and guided her hand by hand. Since their hands were touching and their bodies were almost touching, Chen Yi, after correcting her hand strength, also supported her waist to make her release her moves more powerfully. When Chen Yi touched the skin of her waist, he couldn't help but be a little surprised. Hu Juyu has a really good figure, and the female muscle lines are vividly reflected on her body. It feels very different to the touch and very distinctive. Wait, Chen Yi, what are you thinking about? Chen Yi shook his head suddenly and came back to his senses. I am teaching my 3 disciples how to practice, so how can I think so wildly? The 3rd disciple studied so seriously that he was actually thinking about such a thing. So mean. After Chen Yi came back to his senses, he said to Hu Juyu. You have memorized everything my teacher said. That's all. Try releasing some of the moves. While Chen Yi was talking, he found that Hu Juyu seemed to be stunned. I don't know what I'm thinking about. He must be studying what he just taught. The 3rd disciple is really serious about his practice. As a master, he must cheer up. Chen Yi, Uaa. Seeing Hu Juyu still looking at him dreamily, Chen Yi couldn't help but call out. Hearing the master's voice, Hu Juyu came back to her senses. The master was too close to her just now, and the smell of the master was all around her. The master even touched her waist. This made it difficult for her not to think too much. I couldn't help but think about it in my mind. If possible, she and her master would be in this wide square. That has a different flavor. Obviously, she still didn't listen to the master's instructions this time. Hu Juyu's cheeks were a little red with embarrassment. The master instructed her twice, but she didn't remember it once. How is she going to face her master? As a disciple, she is too incompetent. But she didn't dare to hide it from her master, so she had to tell the truth. Master, I'm sorry. Uaa, I still didn't remember. When she spoke, her eyes looked at the ground unnaturally, her palms were sweating, and she was so ashamed. Although she knew that it was wrong for her to be distracted and think about other things when her master was teaching her, but her master was so perfect, she liked it so much. I can't help it. Chen Yi still didn't feel bored after hearing her say that she hadn't remembered yet. In his opinion, it was his teaching method that was wrong, which was why the disciples didn't remember it after he said it twice. He is so incompetent as a master. At this time, Chen Yi felt no less ashamed than Hu Juyu. Thinking in his mind, Chen Yi planned to coach Hu Juyu again. Just as Chen Yi was about to speak, Hu Juyu suddenly grabbed his hand, as if she was planning something. Chen Yi asked doubtfully, Uaa, what's wrong? Is there anything you want to say? After Hu Juyu briefly struggled in her heart, she mustered up the courage to look into her master's eyes and said with a serious face. Uaa did not remember the master's teachings and was distracted by other things. Uaa is guilty and should be punished. Master, please punish Uaa. Uaa should be punished. When Chen Yi heard that she wanted to be punished, his expression was a little surprised. Punishment or something. Now the 3 disciples are his most beloved disciples, let alone punishment, he is reluctant to even touch a hair on their head. Not to mention punishing the lovely Hu Juyu. Chen Yi shook his head and said softly. It's okay, Uaa, I'll just teach you once. If you still can't remember, I can keep teaching you as a teacher, and forget about punishment or anything like that. Hu Juyu looked at the master's gentle expression, her heart beat rapidly and her face felt a little hot. When she did something wrong, the master not only didn't get angry, but also patiently and gently taught her time and time again. Such a master is so gentle, she loves him so much. At this moment, on the other side of the square, Leng Luoli and Su Jiqian were sitting on stone chairs together. Both of them were meditating. But Su Jiqian always felt that junior sister Leng next to her seemed to be showing unkindness to her. Even while meditating, Leng Luoli's beautiful eyes did not close. It seems like this has been the case since the 2 met today. Su Jiqian didn't take it seriously at first, but after so long, she also noticed something unusual. Junior sister Leng is a little extra cold today. Su Jiqian knows junior sister Leng's character very well. When she gets angry, the temperature around her can't help but drop. Judging from the current temperature, the level of anger should be quite high. Su Jiqian turned around with a stiff neck and looked at junior sister Leng with an awkward smile. Junior sister, you, seem to have more temperament today. Although she didn't know where she had offended junior sister Leng, looking at junior sister Leng's current mood, she must have done something wrong. Still have to ask. When Leng Luoli saw her senior sister taking the initiative to speak, she showed a kind smile and replied. No way, no matter how well I dress up, I'm still not as attractive as my senior sister. After all, senior sister can bewitch the master. My good senior sister, Don't you have anything to explain? As she spoke, she clenched her fists tightly, and the stone chair under Chowtung was cold at this moment, as if it was covered with a layer of frost. When Su Jiqian heard junior sister Leng's last words, she immediately understood why she was angry. Good guy, it turns out that the affair between her and Master was exposed. No wonder he was so angry, it all made sense. Although Su Jiqian originally didn't want to hide it from everyone, she didn't expect it to be exposed so early. As expected of junior sister Leng, Bingshe is smart. But now things are in trouble. If she had confessed to junior sister Leng earlier, even if junior sister Leng would be angry, it would still be within control. But if she kept it secret and junior sister Leng discovered it on her own initiative, that would be a completely different matter. Su Jiqian raised her hands in front of her in a begging gesture. Junior sister, don't get excited, listen to my explanation, explain. Su Jiqian said in a panic. She now only felt that there was a big word, danger, above her head. Leng Luoli looked at her senior sister seriously and asked. Okay, I'd like to hear what kind of story senior sister can make up. Don't say it was Master who took the initiative. Based on my understanding of Master, it is absolutely impossible. Normally, the senior sister would just carry her on her back and kiss and hug her Master, but this time it was completely different. You are actually together. Together, at least bring her with you. It's not like she can't accept it. Anyway, the senior sister kept this from her, and she must have a reasonable explanation. Su Jiqian rolled her eyes at this moment, thinking that ordinary lies might not be able to deceive junior sister Leng, so she planned to use other methods. The succubus, unique charm technique can not only arouse people's desires, but also control people's thoughts and consciousness. Thinking of this, Su Jiqian suddenly had an idea, that is, she didn't know whether it was reliable or not. Seeing Su Jiqian pretending to be pity, she weakly said to her junior sister. Junior sister, senior sister didn't hide it from you on purpose. If you don't believe it, just look at senior sister's eyes. Leng Luoli didn't think much and looked at each other with her senior sister. Suddenly, she saw her senior sister's eyeballs change color, and then change back again. Leng Luoli has read poetry in books and knows that this is a charm technique that only succubi can unleash. However, Leng Luoli's practice of ice skills has long since frozen her heart. Apart from her master, she has long been unable to have such feelings for anyone. Even friendship is very difficult to cultivate. If senior sister Su and junior sister who hadn't met her early and experienced so much together, it would be difficult for her to truly regard them as friends. Therefore, senior sister's charm technique has no effect on her at all. She even became extremely angry when she learned that her senior sister had used the charm technique on her. Hello, senior sister. You said you wanted to explain, but in the end you just tried to muddle through, right? I'm afraid it won't work if I don't teach you a lesson. Su Jiqian looked at junior sister Leng's expression becoming more and more horrified, and realized something was wrong. She was very sure that the charm she had just unleashed on junior sister Leng shouldn't have failed. Why does the charm technique seem to have no effect on junior sister Leng? Not only was it ineffective, it even angered her. Oops. Su Jiqian looked at the dark clouds that were constantly accumulating in the sky, and even a few ice cubes emerged from the sky. She suddenly felt that something was wrong, and at the moment when her junior sister was about to explode, she hugged her junior sister's thigh tightly, crying miserably at the same time. Senior sister is wrong. Senior sister, I will never dare to do it again. Junior sister, you should be able to understand senior sister, right? Master is so perfect. Senior sister can't help but. Please forgive me, senior sister. Senior sister promises you that she will not interfere with whatever you are doing in the future. Leng Luoli was already at the point of breaking out, but she was blindfolded when she saw the senior sister who suddenly cried miserably to her. She really didn't expect that her senior sister would suddenly do this and cry miserably to her. Moreover, is the sentence, Master is so perfect, the reason why you can't help it? Although Leng Luoli was deeply dissatisfied, she really felt a little uncomfortable when she saw her senior sister crying miserably. In any case, the two have been friends for so many years and have relied on each other for so long. Seeing the senior sister's appearance, Leng Luoli's heart softened and she said reluctantly, Hey, senior sister, what are you doing? Let go, don't think I will forgive you. When Su Jiqian heard junior sister Lang's words, she still hugged her thigh reluctantly and continued to pretend to be miserable. If you don't let me go, I won't let you go, unless you say you forgive me, senior sister. But having said that, senior sister can also explain it. Let me tell you, Master was wearing a sky blue robe that day. I thought Master was the most handsome in that dress. After he carried me back to the room was much darker. Master was so handsome. The looming face makes it even more difficult for me to resist. After that, we will finish that, and then do this, that. Su Jiqian talked endlessly about what happened that day, without being stingy or shy at all. After all, I'm talking to my junior sister, and besides, the junior sister also likes the master, so it's okay to talk about it. Junior sister will probably like to hear it, right? Lang Luoli listened to the senior sister's words getting more and more outrageous. Her face even turned red when she heard what happened later, and she quickly interrupted. Wait, senior sister, stop. Didn't you say you wanted to explain? What kind of explanation is this? Aren't these the inner thoughts of a criminal, a true crime record? Lang Luoli's expression didn't know whether she was crying or laughing at this time. I asked you to explain. What's the difference between what you said and directly explaining the crime? Also, senior sister, did you remember to tell the truth at this time? And, you also told it in such detail. That feeling made her feel numb in her heart, and she couldn't stand it anymore. She also really wanted to see Master's abdominal muscles. Su Jiqian was a little disappointed when her junior sister refused to let her talk. She asked, you really don't want to hear it? There was more after that, but I can't remember it too far back. I seem to have fallen asleep. Lang Luoli. Lethargy. Past. Lang Luoli's mentality at this time was no longer as angry as she was at first. Her expression was full of shock after being treated like this by her senior sister. She had to talk to her senior sister when she met her, but she couldn't imagine how outrageous the topic would be. She quickly interrupted. Stop it, senior sister, even if I forgive you, please stop talking about it. Listening to this, I won't be able to sleep at night. Please, tell her in such detail, how can she, an innocent girl in her youth, control herself? But I have to say that the senior sister is really a succubus, and she even dares to say such things to her. I don't know how Master will react if he learns about this. Su Jiqian felt excited when she heard her junior sister said that she had forgiven her. I didn't expect that she could get through like this. Junior sister is really innocent, no wonder she hasn't taken down the Master yet. According to junior sister's progress, I'm afraid she may not be able to reach Master for a long time. In this case, as a senior sister, she should still give some guidance. According to junior sister's progress, I'm afraid she may not be able to reach Master for a long time. In this case, as a senior sister, she should still give some guidance. Su Jiqian was thinking in her mind, and she gradually climbed up along her junior sister's slender and well-proportioned legs. She looked at her junior sister with a smile on her face and said excitedly, Junior sister, do you need me to guide you? With just a little trick, we can definitely take down Master, Before Su Jiqian finished speaking, she saw Lang Luoli holding her face hard, pushing her aside, and at the same time said with disgust, This is my own business. I must use my own method. I don't need your teaching. Also, go somewhere else to spread the fragrance of your succubus. I'm sick of being so close. Lang Luoli always kept away from strangers, not even her senior sister. Although the two of them would sometimes have skin-to-skin contact, she still felt a little conflicted when the senior sister deliberately came close to her like this. Moreover, the scent of the succubus is very strong, and the affected person will find it very pleasant and difficult to refuse, but it is different for her. It's far from a bad smell, but it doesn't smell as good as others. Those who can touch her, apart from her master, are her senior sisters and junior sisters, who are her final bottom line. Master is the most special. If she is master, not only can she touch her, but she can also do some things that she likes more. Su Jiqian was pushed away by junior sister Lang, and she suddenly felt abandoned. She lay pitifully on the ground, as if she were an abandoned baby, with a look of loss and helplessness on her face. She said softly, "Junior sister, I thought we were best friends, but it turns out it's all my sister's fault." "It doesn't matter. Anyway, my sister has never been loved or loved by anyone. She has long been used to it." "Ooh," she cried miserably and looked miserable, but not a single tear flowed from the corner of her eyes. Lang Luoli looked at her senior sister's appearance and could tell at a glance that she was just faking it. "Please, senior sister, are you a drama queen? So many scenes. Besides, you already have Master's love and affection, who will believe what you say. I finally know why you were able to get your Master so quickly. Who can stand this combo of moves?" But even though Lang Luoli knew that her senior sister was pretending, she still couldn't bear to look at her pitiful appearance. Okay, can I apologize to you? Isn't it okay that junior sister was wrong?" Lang Luoli said helplessly. When Su Jiqian heard her junior sister's apology, her expression suddenly changed 360 degrees. She stood up happily and patted the dust off her body. The miserable look before was gone, and instead he had a victorious look on his face. She knew that the junior sister would not bear to watch her cry miserably. The junior sister always had an indifferent expression towards them, but in fact she cared a lot in her heart. As a senior sister, she likes to tease this arrogant junior sister the most. Every time she succeeds, she feels a sense of accomplishment. All in all, I just have to find a way to be mean to my junior sister from time to time. Lang Luoli looked at her senior sister's victorious expression and was stunned for a moment, then she realized something. Wait, something is wrong. Didn't she come to senior sister today to ask for an explanation? Why did she end up apologizing to senior sister? Well, you can turn against the guest and become the master. Thinking of this, Lang Luoli suddenly laughed out of anger at herself. Her talent is actually higher than that of her senior sister, and she can always discover the little tricks of her senior sister immediately. But every time she talked about relationships, she would be led by the other's thumb, and her IQ dropped drastically. Lang Luoli sighed and shook her head, assuming that this matter was over for the time being. Otherwise, if the consumption continues, she might be tricked by her senior sister. Alas, who calls her his senior sister? But even though she thought so in her heart, she always felt that she was at a disadvantage, and she couldn't help but feel angry. Looking at the tea table in front of her, a teapot just happened to be placed, and the tea had just been brewed. She thought about pouring herself a cup of tea to go away the fire. After pouring the tea, Lang Luoli was ready to take a sip. But just when the teacup was about to reach her mouth, Su Jiqian suddenly jumped up and stopped junior sister Lang's mouth with her hand. She looked very excited and said in a panic, "Master, junior sister, I can't drink this pot of tea, I really can't." When she spoke, she was still sweating on her forehead and she was very nervous. The reason why she was so nervous was because she had brewed this pot of tea not long ago and prepared it for Master. "If I drink it for junior sister, although she thinks it's okay, if junior sister Lang discovers it later, she will definitely be killed. Therefore, no matter what, absolutely, you cannot give it to junior sister Lang." Lang Luoli didn't know what her senior sister was thinking at this time. Looking at her nervous look, she just felt baffled. She can't even drink tea. Why is senior sister so crazy today? Su Jiqian said to junior sister Lang with a guilty conscience. "Well, senior sister, please make another pot for you." Lang Luoli lost interest after being disturbed by her senior sister, so she put down her teacup and asked, "How do I remember that Master said that you are not allowed to make tea anymore and leave the tea-making work to me and junior sister Hu? By the way, I have always been curious, what did you do? Master actually specifically told you not to make tea." Lang Luoli knew that now that the master had recovered, not only had his character become gentler, but he had also repeatedly told them that they no longer needed those cumbersome etiquette. However, sometimes out of respect, they will still take the initiative to salute. Since Master doesn't care about these etiquettes, why would he specifically ask him to leave the tea-making work to others? Senior sister must have done something very outrageous, which prompted Master to give special instructions, but it was just making tea. What can senior sister do? The more Lang Luoli thought about it, the more curious she became, and her heart for gossip was aroused. Su Jiqian's expression became more and more embarrassed when she was asked by her junior sister. She felt that it was better not to tell her junior sister about this matter. If her junior sister knew about it, she would definitely look at her with a very disgusted expression. Junior sister Lang's expression is usually quite cold. When she makes that expression, I can't imagine how gloomy it will be. Su Jiqian laughed and planned to change the topic. Ha ha ha, it's okay. Senior sister is just brewing a new pot of tea for you. Seeing that her senior sister refused to tell the truth, Lang Luoli felt even more curious. But the senior sister didn't say anything, so she had to give up temporarily. She stood up and walked towards the indoor hot spring, saying as she walked, "Forget it, I'm not in the mood to drink. I'm going to take a bath and calm down. Senior sister, you are not allowed to eat secretly while I am away." Lang Luoli stood up and walked towards the indoor hot spring, saying as she walked, "Forget it, I'm not in the mood to drink. I'm going to take a bath and calm down. Senior sister, you are not allowed to eat secretly while I am away." Being disturbed by her senior sister, she no longer had any thoughts about drinking tea, so she thought about taking a bath to feel comfortable. Before leaving, she was still a little worried that her senior sister would eat secretly again, so she gave a special instruction. Seeing her junior sister leave, Su Jiqian smiled and waved her hand in response. "Ah ha ha, junior sister, just don't worry," she replied to junior sister, but in fact she didn't take it seriously at all. Lang Luoli naturally noticed the senior sister's tone and felt that it was unreliable. However, she just questioned her senior sister. She shouldn't go to eat secretly again so soon, right? It should be, right? Even if you are a senior sister, you should rest for a few days, right? Thinking of this, Lang Luoli slowly left. Su Jiqian breathed a sigh of relief when she saw junior sister Lang's figure completely disappearing from the square. She thought she would be miserable if she was caught by junior sister Lang, but she didn't expect that junior sister Lang would be surprisingly easy to fool. In fact, if you think about it carefully, the two of them have been together for so long. It is estimated that junior sister Lang has already known what she will do, and is somewhat mentally prepared. But I didn't expect her to take action so quickly. After temporarily passing the hurdle of junior sister Lang, Su Jiqian could divert her attention. She stood up and walked towards the center of the square. Speaking of which, master and junior sister who have been practicing together for a while, and I don't know what's going on. Not long ago, Hu Juyu practiced with her master, but her attention was never on her practice, causing her to be distracted often. Hu Juyu thought she should be punished, but Chen Yi did not punish her. On the contrary, he continued to encourage her. Hu Juyu was deeply moved by this, and the wounds in her heart were healing unconsciously. She hugged master happily and her expression was very happy. Naturally, Chen Yi also knew about Hu Juyu's mental illness. Since she wants to vent her emotions, let her do it. Chen Yi subconsciously hugged her waist and let her hold him. But at the same time, Chen Yi still had a bad feeling in his heart. He was originally practicing with his third disciple, but suddenly they hugged each other. If two other disciples come later, you must not think that she is doing some hidden rules. Just when Chen Yi obviously did nothing but felt guilty, a familiar female voice suddenly came from not far away. The speaker was Su Jiqian. She looked at the master with shock on her face. "Master, what are you doing? Didn't you say you want to practice with junior sister Hu? Why are we hugging each other?" "Ah, I understand, you are taking advantage of your position and unspoken rules, junior sister Hu." "What a perverted master." Su Jiqian's shocked expression was fake, she already knew what happened. However, when she walked over, she noticed master's panic expression, so she felt bad and wanted to tease master. As expected, Su Jiqian's trick worked. Chen Yi was a little shy when asked this question by the eldest disciple. Now that she has that kind of relationship with the disciple, she shouldn't have other thoughts about other women. But now in this scene, this is obviously a rape scene. Chen Yi explained in a panic. "Wait a minute, Kaianer, it's not what you think." Although he couldn't explain the current scene, he still felt that he should explain. However, Su Jiqian did not give master a chance to explain. She got directly into master's arms and looked at master with a smile. At the same time, he drew circles on Master's chest with his hands and said with a wicked smile, "It's because one disciple is not enough, so." Su Jiqian became more and more excited as she talked. Since the Master looked like he had been caught, she couldn't miss such a good opportunity. Chen Yi was confused by the big disciple's combo of moves. At the same time, he could also notice that the eldest disciple had a new black silk sling today, which was different from the previous one. A black thread connected the top of the stockings. The most important thing is the fragrance of the eldest disciple, which Chen Yi finds most difficult to refuse. But what shocked Chen Yi even more was that the eldest disciples were so bold now. What Chen Yi didn't know was that from Su Jiqian's point of view, since junior sister Lang had discovered her secrets, there was no need to hide them. As for Hu Juyu, this second junior sister has always been very easy to do, so don't worry about it. I just have to look at junior sister Lang's face occasionally, otherwise she will go crazy. It was really hard for Chen Yi to refuse this request from the eldest disciple. However, thinking that not long ago the eldest disciple could not even stand firmly, he felt that he should let the eldest disciple rest for a while. The big disciple is one of those people who always talks about running the train, but in fact when he actually drives, his hands shake when holding the steering wheel. When I saw the big car approaching, I was so scared that I wanted to stop. The wheels would occasionally run over the flowers and plants on the roadside. Strange metaphors increased, but having said that, the eldest disciple was not angry when he saw this scene. This is a bit beyond Chen Yi's imagination. Since the disciples are not angry after seeing this scene, why not do something else? Chen Yi's brain couldn't help but have random thoughts at this time, but seeing that the eldest disciple was not angry, it saved him the effort to explain. Just when Chen Yi breathed a sigh of relief, suddenly on this hot summer day, the eldest disciple in his arms felt an icy cold feeling. As soon as Su Jiqian felt the cold feeling, she realized something terrifying. No way, junior sister Lang won't finish taking a bath so quickly. The more she thought about it, the more scared she became, and she slowly and stiffly turned her head away. As soon as Su Jiqian felt the cold feeling, she realized something terrifying. No way, junior sister Lang won't finish taking a bath so quickly. She just promised junior sister Lang a few minutes ago, but she turned around and was caught. This time her crime is serious. The more she thought about it, the more scared she became, and she slowly and stiffly turned her head away. As expected, Lang Luoli was still wrapped in a wet bath towel, staring at her with a cold expression. The water drops dripping from her head even condensed into freezing points, and fell to the ground and broke into 8 pieces. Lang Luoli's already cold and ice-like expression became even more ferocious at this moment. "Sister, you are too much." Su Jiqian was frightened to tears by junior sister Lang's expression. She also knows how much she has gone too far, and I am afraid she is doomed this time. At this moment, Chen Yi looked at the sudden appearance of Lang Luoli and found that she had just taken a bath, but was only wrapped in a thin bath towel, and couldn't help but feel worried. Although it is summer now, it is not good to be hit by a cool breeze just after taking a shower. Thinking to himself, Chen Yi stepped forward and put his cyan robe on Lang Luoli's body. At the same time, he gently asked, "Why are you not wearing any clothes? You may catch a cold." Lang Luoli was so angry when she saw her senior sister that she was about to reach the breaking point and lose her temper. But looking at the master who suddenly walked over, the master even put a coat on her. As soon as the person in front of her changed, her expression immediately calmed down. From gloomy, it turned into a gentle smile, and at the same time a little shy. She said weakly, looking completely different from before, "Thank you, master, for your concern." Su Jiqian hid behind her master. Looking at junior sister Lang's appearance, she was completely confused. Wow, is this junior sister Lang from just now? Someone took her body away. How can you change your attitude so quickly? You have too many double standards. Wait, she seems not qualified to talk about junior sister Lang. As expected, he comes from the same sect and comes from the same lineage. But no matter what, Su Jiqian wiped the cold sweat from her head. She was able to get away with it, and escaped once again. When Lang Luoli was taking a shower, she gradually calmed down. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that her senior sister was unreliable. So I planned to come out wrapped in a bath towel to take a look, but I didn't expect that I just bumped into the senior sister who was about to steal some food. Chen Yi looked at the second disciple. Although he tried his best not to think about anything else, looking at the second disciple's dress, he still couldn't help but instinctively think. What he was thinking was that the second disciple was wrapped in a bath towel. Did that mean? Although the second disciple's figure is not as plump as the first disciple's, it is just right in proportion. The bath towel is not particularly long, and her long and beautiful legs are just exposed in the air. Chen Yi swallowed his saliva and saw the second disciple still blushing and grabbing the coat he handed over, so he ordered. Why don't you go back and change your clothes first? For the sake of my teacher, I can continue to guide you in your practice. Lang Luoli was still smelling the smell on her master's coat, immersed in it and unable to extricate herself. She grabbed her coat with both hands, her pretty face couldn't help but blush, and she replied softly. Okay, Master, I will personally guide Lear in her practice later. Chen Yi nodded after hearing this. It was not long before he left the mountain. During this period, he still had to improve the strength of the 3 disciples as soon as possible. Although he could finish the destruction of Sanyuan this time by himself, it would be good to take 3 disciples out together to gain more practical experience. Lang Luoli looked very excited after receiving the master's answer and decided to go back and change clothes quickly. But it was such excitement that distracted her attention, and since she was holding onto master's coat with both hands, the bath towel accidentally came loose and slowly slipped down. Lang Luoli had quick eyes and quick hands, and quickly grabbed the bath towel with one hand before it completely fell off. Although it was difficult to see it, it was this looming feeling that made Chen Yi take a deep breath. Lang Luoli clutched the bath towel tightly, but to be honest, she didn't look panicked. There is no one else here, so even if he is seen, it is for the master to see, so it doesn't matter. She wished that the wind was stronger and she could be blown away by the towel. Although letting go directly can achieve this effect, it is not good to be too deliberate in front of master. Lang Luoli really knew the master very well, and this feeling gave her greater attack power against the master. Lang Luoli looked at master's face and could clearly feel that master was blushing. Master is real and doesn't hide it. But she likes this kind of master. No, it's better to say that she likes master no matter who he is. Lang Luoli's voice was as soft as water, and she said softly. Master, you. When Chen Yi heard the second disciple's voice, he came back to his senses from the beautiful scenery. Realizing that he had actually seen something, Chen Yi was a little shy for a moment. In order not to offend the second disciple, he quickly moved his eyes away and looked up to the sky. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.